Less than 1 minute. Less than 1 minute. Good morning. It is 9:30, and welcome to the public participation portion of the Volusia County Council meeting this 9th day of January. We welcome you all to be here this morning. As I mentioned, we have a significant number of people wishing to speak, so if you could make your comments direct, succinct, and so that we can try to fit everyone in. As I mentioned, there will be time at the end of the meeting for any of those who do not get to speak this time to speak. One quick note, for those of you who may be watching online, the streaming service is up and running with the audio. The audio only, if you're listening, you won't get this message, but if you're watching and want to switch, the audio portion only is having temporary technical difficulties, which they're trying to work out. But welcome, and our first speaker will be Hillary Kogan, and it's followed by Suzanne Schreiber. Suzanne, if you could get ready to go, you'll save some time. We appreciate it.
Good morning.
Welcome.
You probably can't see me, right, because I'm too short. Okay. I'm here to speak on behalf of my service dog and myself. The ordinance that you passed to allow other dogs, pets in outside venues has caused numerous problems. Went to Jersey Mike's just last week, and a gentleman's dog went after my dog, and he started cussing at me in Hebrew and Yiddish and told me to take my dog inside because my dog was allowed inside. So I said, and he says, "Oh, you only have emphysema." No, I don't just have emphysema. And Councilwoman Post stood up for me, and at Walmart 3 times my dog was almost attacked by dogs before I finally got the ADA to force Walmart to put signs up that say service dogs only. The last time I went into a COPD flare-up, and I'm stage 4, by the way, I have 20% of my lungs left, is where your lungs shut down, your brain starts shutting down, your lips turn blue, and you're dying. They had to call an ambulance, and thank God for my dog sitting there nudging me and getting me out of it. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here. She saved my life 4 times. Now, if you have a blind person and a dog goes after his service dog, what is he supposed to do? You tell me. Okay? He has no defense whatsoever. And that service dog thinks that that other dog is going to attack their human. They're going to protect it. Well, it's a misdemeanor to attack her under federal law, and it's a felony to attack me. Okay? Now, it says ADA service dog laws will always overrule local laws. Right here. Okay? I think that we need to bring this back on the floor, and I would really appreciate it if you would, because this has gotten dangerous to the point of being dangerous. And I can't take my dog to Lowe's anymore. I can't have my service dog in certain places anymore, because now I'm in fear she's going to get attacked and I'm going to get attacked. And at this point, it's a matter of my life or their pet. So, I mean, which do you want? Okay, I grew up in Washington, D.C. I was a political science major with minor in economics, and I can really make it hard on this council, because I will go to the federal government. I'll go to the OCR, okay, the Office of Civil Rights, because my civil rights and every disabled person in this county, civil rights are being trampled on right now. The ones that have service dogs, we need them. And at night, she wakes me up. When my oxygen comes off, she wakes me up. And that is a godsend to me, because my oxygen goes down somewhere between 40 and 50%. And until you have to live and be in my shoes, okay, I think that this judgment call to allow pets is wrong in open venues. I'm sorry. But it is what it is. And I thank you very much for your time. I'm leaving 30 seconds for the next person. There you go.
Thank you. Suzanne, you'll be followed by Derek Lamontague. So if you'll be right after her, thanks. And just to clarify, we do not respond or answer your questions during this time. This is your time. If there needs to be contact, we'll contact you later, or you contact us at any time. We're all available 24/7. Thank you. Name and address, too. Yes, state your name and address for the record.
Suzanne Schreiber, 548 Sandy Oaks Boulevard in Ormond Beach. Good morning. My name is Suzanne, as I just said. I'm the founder of Dream Green Volusia. We are best known for the work we do countywide to reduce plastic pollution and single-use plastics. However, today I'm here to talk to you about Volusia Forever and ECHO. I want to discuss the forward-thinking ideas of the programs to be placed on the ballot for the citizens of Volusia County to vote on in 2020. An example of Volusia Forever use would be to purchase the land located on Route 40 and west of I-95 in Ormond Beach. This land was recently approved for additional development. This would not only protect wetlands and a water recharge area, but it serves to cut down traffic on Route 40. The plan isn't so far along that this would be a far-fetched idea. There are other areas throughout the county where the same could be done in similar situations and are reasons to place it on the ballot for a vote. Some examples of ECHO funds usage for small-scale projects are adopt a drain and cigarette butt collection and recycling on the beach, and larger-scale project examples are water refill stations across the county for reusable bottles, the water goat to clean up the waterways, and artificial reefs in the river, commercial composting of biosolids. These are not pie-in-the-sky ideas either. I am fully aware of the land map showing the amount of land purchased, yet we still have wetland recharge areas completely exposed for development and along main roads where development seems to always be approved. If you really want to cut down on traffic and protect wetlands, then place Forever on the ballot. With our many impaired waterways in the county, these programs are needed. A few days ago, I heard the chairman on the radio speaking to the consideration of expiring the programs but using the mechanism to collect for infrastructure. Because the sales tax increase was voted down earlier this year does not make it right to make the assumption to take it from other programs with completely different intentions. If you think that only environmental groups care about these programs, I'm reminding again that 61% voted for the program the first time around. I support Volusia Forever and ECHO as they are right now, to be placed on the ballot in 2020 for Volusia County voters to decide for themselves. Our natural environment is always worth protecting and is what makes living here special. Please protect our water. Thank you.
Thank you. Derek. Derek, you'll be followed by Susie Pierce.
Derek LaMontagne, Geiger Drive, Port Orange. Good morning, Council. Today I am speaking on behalf of myself and the Sweetwater Coalition of Volusia County in support of renewing the Volusia Forever program and requesting that you add it to this year's ballot more or less as is, because really it does a lot of good and deserves to continue. I don't need to tell you how wonderful a program Volusia Forever has been, protecting tens of thousands of acres and providing some of the most iconic parks in our county. I also don't need to tell you how preserving wetlands provides resilience against flooding, and when hurricane season comes, that's very important. And with year after year of record-setting temperatures, it is clear that trees and forests provide a general cooling effect on our cities, reducing costs all around the board. You also know that these natural systems are responsible for keeping our waters clean for citizens to enjoy. But it is not a question of whether or not we have enough land already, but whether or not we wish to continue the single best funding mechanism available to maintain our green infrastructure. Your staff has been contacted by some of the same land conservancy groups that helped with the 2000 ballot initiative, and we all wish to get started supporting you, but need your vote of consideration as soon as possible, hopefully at the workshop this afternoon. I was not old enough to vote on the original Volusia Forever ballot initiative 20 years ago, but would appreciate the chance to do so this year. I hope you can give us that chance and let the voters decide. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Susie Pierce. And Susie, next up will be Jane Andrews. Thank you, Susie.
Hello, Council. My name is Susie Peace, like peace sign.
Sorry.
And thank you very much for allowing us to speak, and thank you for consideration of putting
Address.
ECHO and Volusia Forever.
Address. Your
on
address,
the
please. State your
ballot.
address, please.
Okay. 1571 Allenson Drive, DeLand, Florida.
Thank you.
I feel like we're not done yet with this. I did vote on ECHO and Volusia Forever 20 years ago, and I've seen the results. I am heavily involved in both of these wonderful initiatives. I wear a West Volusia Historical Society pin. I'm on the board for that, do their children's programs. Also, I'm on Gemini Springs Alliance Committee, and I'm also with Environmental Council of Volusia and Flagler. And I think that we care about the environment, of course. We've heard these speakers, but we also care about venues such as the Athens Theater, the African American Museum of Art, Earl Brown Park, Gateway Center for the Arts, and these are venues and event centers in this area. But I mean, this is county-wide, Echo and Volusia Forever. I think the public would vote for this if we can get out the information to them. I think they would see the benefits. And of course, all of these things need refurbishing. You know, a soccer complex needs refurbishing. Jackie Robinson Park and Museum is going to need refurbishing. So we need to hold on to these initiatives and keep them going. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. Jane Anders.
Jane Andrews, 183 South US Highway 1 in Oak Hill. Good morning, esteemed council. I'm a 31-year career civilian for the Department of Defense, and I served on Air Force bases starting in Ohio, Oklahoma, California, then Florida. I also traveled across the United States and abroad. My travels reveal development has altered wetlands, marshes, forests, rivers, and even farmland, putting our precious flora and fauna in decline across this country and abroad. Florida seemed awesome upon my arrival in 1989. My passion is turtles, but experiencing all flora and fauna and their natural niches is the definition of good quality of life for me. In time, my disappointment with Florida grew as learning gopher tortoises used to be buried alive for development. Numbers of endangered and threatened species were growing rapidly. Red tides were endangering not only the marine life, but our lungs as well, and introduction, proliferation of invasive species, and our Indian River Lagoon in peril. Volusia Forever and Echo have been successful in preserving natural heritage against the flow of development, a legacy that you now have the opportunity to continue. I voted for these amendments in 2000, and I pledge to vote for them again in 2020 if you'll put them back on the ballot. But please, I ask if you will let the public have the ability to suggest changes to the last bullet language to reflect the lessons learned over the past 20 years. I thank you for your service to our county, and finally, thank you for listening.
Thank you. Dennis Elster.
Hi, Dennis Elster, 366 Fishing Lane to Land. I just wanted to say that I'm speaking on behalf of Volusia Forever and Echo. The bottom line question is, how do you want your county to look? I came from Dade County 21 years ago. We can look like Dade County. And from what I've seen, I think we're on the way to doing just that. From what I've also seen, if we don't protect it in Volusia County, we will develop it. Those are the only two choices that I've noticed here. I lead trips for the Sierra Club, kayak trips, or hikes. It is an unspeakably beautiful county. We are blessed to live here. We can make it go away. So again, please put this on the ballot. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dennis. Peter Sigmund. And just so you know, we will not be voting on this until a future time that it comes back as an agenda item. So we appreciate your input, but just to let those of you know, we will not be voting today at the workshop. So just so you know, you'll have at least 2 or 3 more chances and opportunities to talk with us. Sorry.
I'm Peter Sigmund, 5955 Katrona Drive, Port Orange. I came to the area 3 years ago, and I'm amazed about the inland natural resources. They really rival all the lakeside resources, and the lakeside resources are not safe in the future. So let's focus on the inland natural resources. Protecting land is very important for groundwater quality. I see more land being bulldozed, and I think we should maintain the current balance of protected land versus developed land, and that would require to continue Volusia forever, forever. Thank you.
Thank you. John Baker and Steve Wonderly, you'll be after that if you'll be on deck, Steve.
John Baker, 9 Cunningham Lane, DeBerry. I'm here as the president of the Environmental Council of Volusia and Flagler Counties, a long-standing organization in these two counties. And I'm also a multi-generational Volusia native. And I'm here to ask for the continuation of these very successful and popular ECHO and Volusia Forever programs. As the county population rapidly grows and the number of these environmental, historical, and cultural assets decreases, they become more valuable and important to ensuring our heritage and our quality of life. Nearly 30 years ago, I was part of the county's Green Ribbon Economic Development Committee, and we did a lot of interviews with people who were either locating to Volusia County or at least considering to come here. And one of the big factors that they stated to us was the quality of life. They didn't want to bring their people to a place that was a wasteland. And speaking of quality of life, ensuring the quality of life issues in a responsible manner is written into and enshrined in your comprehensive plan. The ECHO and Volusia Forever programs are both directly and indirectly stated in the comprehensive plan, and I sent an email to some of you, to all of y'all with some of those issues. I won't go into the examples for brevity. And I want to just mention that art and culture are significant to our economy, generating $48.7 million in 2015 and supporting 1,472 full-time equivalent jobs. That generates $32.4 million in household income and $7 million in local and state government revenue. That's not insignificant. County residents spend on average $30.86 for each cultural event, and the non-residents spent approximately 27% more for these events, or $39.12. The non-residents spend the additional money on food, lodging, and transportation largely. Similarly, our environmental and historic assets also generate a lot of revenue and create a lot of jobs for this county. People spend the money, and that helps all of us. Please put the ECHO and Volusia Forever on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Steve Wonderly. And Mark Shuttleworth, you'll be next.
Good morning. I'm Steve Wonderly, 711 North Halifax Avenue in Daytona Beach. I am also the chair of the Sierra Club for Volusia and Flagler counties and on the executive committee for the state of Florida. Just a couple quick facts about the Sierra Club in case you're not familiar with it. It's the nation's largest and oldest environmental organization. We're nonprofit, nonpartisan, but we do get involved in election type activities such as candidate endorsement and support. I'm here today, not surprisingly, to ask you to put Volusia Forever on the ballot. It is a very important program. It has been an important program. It has a lot of environmental benefits. As more and more people move into Florida and Volusia County, one of the big problems is going to be water. Two of the big problems are going to be water quality and water quantity. Volusia Forever will help with both of those issues and a lot of other environmental issues. In addition, it will be important to the county's comprehensive plan, meeting the commitments of the comprehensive plan and the resiliency plan. It has been effective, it is popular, it is inexpensive, and it's important that we continue it. It would not be fair to not allow the voters of Volusia County a vote on this. Please let the people decide on this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mark? And Pat Northey, you'll be following Mark.
Good day. My name is Mark Shuttleworth. I live at 340 New York Avenue in Lake Helen. I have been owner of a salvage and preservation company called Florida Victorian for 39 years. It's now located in downtown DeLand. It's been there for about 30 years. We have participated in salvage and preservation projects throughout Volusia County for years. We're most proud of our work on the DeBerry Mansion and Carriage House, the Athens Theater, the Historic County Courthouse, the Pioneer Settlement in Barberville, the Gardener's Cottage in Ormond Beach, and of course the City Hall building in my hometown, Lake Helen. We're now assisting the Greater Union Life Center in DeLand with restoring a 1920s two-story brick building named after J.W. Wright, an African-American citrus grove laborer who worked hard all his life to end up owning more than 250 acres of prime citrus in West Volusia. This year, the Greater Union Life Center is planning on applying for an ECHO grant to continue restoring this building to become once again a cornerstone of economic development and cultural heritage in the DeLand community. As a Volusia County resident for 50 years, I am concerned that the ECHO and Volusia Forever programs continue. With a rapidly growing population, commercial and residential development here in Central Florida, have we really permanently set aside enough environmental lands for a water recharge area and our threatened wildlife? Do we not have to continue our stewardship of this fragile Mother Nature? Is our history of Spanish and English plantations, our lumbering and citrus and cattle industries, our long-term educational facilities, our beachside tourism, and yes, our motor cars and space-age endeavors, are they all completely memorialized that we need no further historic preservation or museums? Are there enough arts and cultural facilities to entertain and educate the future growth of the population in Volusia County? These are tough questions requiring sympathetic hearts and careful thinking. I urge the County Council members to place the continuance of the ECHO and Volusia Forever programs on the ballot this year. Thank you very much.
Mark, if you would take your card and give it back to the clerk, put your address in there
Okay, sure.
so we can have that. Pat?
Morning.
Northey.
Pat Northey, 2310 Carson Lane, Deltona, Florida. I'm a member of the ECHO board. Thank you, Councilmember Lowry, for appointing me as your representative to ECHO. I don't see our chairman, Shea Pendergast, here, so I will. He did write a letter last night. I'm going to read just one paragraph from that for you in the event that you did not have an opportunity to see that yet. It is the consensus of the ECHO Advisory Committee that the Volusia County Council consider reauthorization of the program. ECHO has proven to be worthwhile, enhancing the quality of life in Volusia County by ensuring the availability of environmental, cultural, historical, and outdoor recreational opportunities. We would like to request a workshop between the County Council and ECHO Advisory Board to discuss the future of the program. Thank you for the opportunity to serve. I would also say that is the same. I think if you polled the ECHO board, they would say that was the same for Volusia Forever. They would like to see a reauthorization on the ballot. Whether that is in the state that it is now, or whether that is, you all take a look and decide that there are other ways to handle that. We're open to discussing that with you. We would very much like to be part of that discussion. I would very much like to be part of that discussion and offer my help in that way, as I've had some experience with the program from my former position. With that, I thank you for all that you do. This is, I know, a tough decision, going back out and asking people to tax themselves, but I would remind you that it was overwhelmingly supported at the ballot 20 years ago. We did listening sessions. And those of you that were up there, you went and did it. The County Council did what they promised to the voters, and so it has a good background and a good opportunity for advancement. I'm not talking to anybody who says it's time to sunset it. They would like to continue to see us look at quality of life in Volusia County, and this is one way to do it, by these two initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Melissa Lammers. And we're running down to less than 7 minutes, so Kathy Lowenstein, you'd be next.
Good morning, honorable council members. Happy New Year. My name is Melissa Lammers, and I live at 10 Wisteria Drive in Ormond by the Sea. I'm here to ask you to please place Volusia Forever and Volusia Echo on the agenda of an upcoming council meeting and on the ballot for 2020. They sunset in 2021. Since 2000, our county has grown, and is currently experiencing a vigorous spurt. And with that growth comes an even greater need to protect and expand our investment in environmentally sensitive and outdoor recreation lands. But most especially, we need to protect lands for water resources into the future. This award-winning program has leveraged matching funds from a variety of entities, making it efficient as well as effective. It satisfies critical aspects of our comprehensive plan and our resiliency plan. Best of all, continuing the program would de facto not result in any new tax. At the current maximum rate of just 20 cents on $1,000 of taxable property value, it has delivered tremendous value for money to the citizens of our county and should continue to do so. We should all be very proud of that. ECHO, in many ways, complements Volusia Forever. It assures us that we have a sense of place that makes Volusia County different from other places in Florida. That's important for our quality of life, but it's also important when we compete for tourist dollars. Whenever I have visitors in town, I take them to any number of places that have been supported through ECHO grants. The Museum of Arts and Sciences, the Environmental Learning Center at Lyonia, Lillian Place, the Southeast Museum of Photography, Smyrna Dunes, the Atlantic Center for the Arts, the Casements, and many more. Through membership in Audubon and in the Florida Native Plant Society, I know how many of us residents and snowbirds like to go traipsing around our beautiful county. These things are unique to Volusia. As growth continues, people will want more amenities, not fewer. With more people, we'll need more clean water. These things will become more precious, not less. In the past, Volusia County voters twice agreed to save land for water. They agreed to preserve our special places. Today's voters deserve the same chance. Please place these initiatives on your agenda and on the 2020 ballot. And thank you so very much for your service.
Kathy? Kathy?
Good morning, Kathy Lowenstein, 214 East Washington Avenue, DeLand, Florida. I'm wearing today the Native Plant Society tag, but I'm also mostly wanting to speak from my perspective as a former Florida Forestry Service employee, just recently retired 2 years ago. And just coincidentally, 20 years ago, I began my position as a land management administrator for the state, and I saw firsthand in our local area, as we dealt with the state forest and future land acquisition, how the county's program was so complementary, so entrepreneurial, what a partner it was for land acquisition. And so when I think about how, in working with Doug Weaver, so many times that helped to buy land that later the forestry could add to their areas, or the land that the county bought was a connection to that important land corridor. I'm really struggling to give words to the feeling that I had, because when I first looked at that program as that administrator, I remember how skeptical I was that that corridor that was so significant and important be formed. The vision that the county had then would actually be seen, and look now 20 years later how much of that Volusia Conservation Corridor is intact, specifically going like from Tiger Bay State Forest down to Maytown. And so many of the Lake George State Forest to Tiger Bay State Forest properties were filled in. So what I would like to say is that we are now at the beginning of the year setting our vision, many of us, and I'm sure you all, for the year and your priorities. And infrastructure will always compete for money, and so many other things will. But what can we do to not only extend the program that was so effective in spending monies for this good reason, but also to help to buffer some of the long-standing effects of development that will always press us and infrastructure that will always demand. So I argue for this as one of your priorities for the year. This is an auspicious year, being also the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. Earth Day was formed in 1971. So also with a year of the label 2020, we're all looking for 2020 vision and hope we'll have good hindsight when we look back and see that we did the right thing. Thank you for supporting Volusia Forever.
Thank you, Kathy. And we have 1 minute left, and I don't think that's time for anyone to speak. However, those of you who are here will be allowed to speak at the conclusion of today's council meeting. If all of you that are here, there's about 10 more that are here. If you'd like to stand and applaud or something, do something unusual, I'm going to let you do that, those of you, because those here all were supporting the Echo. So thank you for coming out. And again, you're all welcome to stay, enjoy the time today, and we will start the meeting at 10 o'clock. We'll adjourn the public participation portion at this time. See you in less than probably 30 seconds. Cool. That's a great, it's a great look. Okay. Good morning. It is 10 o'clock, and we are going to call the Volusia County Council meeting to order this morning at exactly 10 o'clock. And while those are clearing the chambers, we will ask Pastor Mark Holcomb of the Rock Church. Be ready. We'll wait. Go ahead and come on up, but we'll wait till everyone clears the chambers to start the meeting. We did call the meeting to order. Okay, if we can make sure that they leave the area out there, if you can make sure that they're out of earshot, so we can go ahead and start the meeting. That'd be great. Okay, Pastor Mark Holcomb.
Good morning. Thank you for the invitation.
We're going to ask the council to stand, and we'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for your goodness, for your mercy, for your amazing grace. Lord, we thank you for this incredible year that you've given us. Lord, we also look forward, Lord, to another new year as well as a new decade. Lord, we thank you, Lord, that we are ushering in a new era. And Lord, we look forward, Lord, to your blessing being upon it. So Lord, we ask, Lord, first as we invoke your presence upon this meeting and this gathering, and we also dedicate, Lord, all the gatherings here, Lord, throughout this year. Lord, we pray that your wisdom, Lord, would be our portion. You asked us to ask you for wisdom if we ever needed it. And Lord, and we need your wisdom, Lord, as we lead. And Father, as we were invited by the Apostle Paul to pray for our leaders that we would live a quiet and peaceable life, Lord, we pray for those who are in leadership over us, Lord, specifically those who are governing here in Volusia County. And Father, we pray for your wisdom to be upon them as the decisions that they have to make, Lord God, are very time-consuming and need constant focus and attention, Lord. And we ask you, Lord, for that wisdom now in Jesus' name. Secondly, Lord, we ask you for your peace, Lord, to be our portion. Lord, the peace of God, not the peace of men, but the peace of God that passes our understanding at times. But Lord, gives us comfort and gives us strength and gives us stability when we need it. And Lord, we also ask, Lord, thirdly, Lord, for your love, Lord, to be a motivation behind what we say and what we do, Lord, and the things, Lord, that we approach and that we attack, and even things, Lord, that we build programs for and policy for. Lord, let the motivation behind that be the care for one another, care for you, and care for the things that you have made for us to enjoy. And Lord, finally, Lord, we ask for your favor, Lord, to be upon this county. Lord, all the things that are happening in this county, so exciting, the growth and the progress, Lord, and the people that are coming, Lord, and we know that the future belongs to those who plan for it, Lord. And so help us to plan accordingly to the great future that lies ahead. And Lord, now finally we speak this blessing of your face shining upon this county, and your peace be upon us in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just a point of personal preference here. That's my personal pastor. So thank you, Pastor Mark. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, may I have the roll call, please?
Miss Post.
Here.
Miss Wheeler. Miss Denny's.
Here.
Miss Gertman.
Here.
Mr. Johnson. Dr. Lowry.
Here.
Mr. Kelly.
Here. Okay, does anyone wish to pull any of the items or comment? Ms. Post?
I do. I would like to pull item O, Oscar, just for discussion.
Okay. Ms. Wheeler?
Yes, I would like to pull M also for discussion or presentation.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Lowry, seconded by Wheeler to approve the consent agenda. We will move now to item O. Ms. Post?
Yes, so item O is proclamations that are presented outside of county council chambers, and there was one on here that I wanted to ensure that was noted. Monday evening, I had the opportunity to attend a Junior League of Daytona Beach meeting, and I'm very proud to be a sustaining member of the Junior League of Daytona Beach. They've done lots of good work in the community over the years, and on Monday evening, I was very proud to present them with a proclamation in regards to Little Black Dress Initiative Week. And I don't know, perhaps some of staff might have noticed that I have been wearing the same outfit all week. So I have watched it. But you may have also noticed people in your community wearing the same little black dress all week. And that is part of the Little Black Dress Initiative. And we have, in the audience, we have Tasha Howard, if you would like to come up. She is a current representative of the State Public Affairs Committee for Junior League, and I am also proud to be a former chair of that committee for the local group as well. So, Tasha, if you would like to explain the initiative, and when you're finished, I would like to just say one last thing about the speaker the other night.
Good morning.
Morning.
If you could speak into the microphone, I'm sorry.
Good morning.
Good morning.
On behalf of the Junior League of Daytona Beach, I would like to thank the Volusia County Council for the opportunity to speak with you this morning about our league's Human Trafficking Committee. This committee is dedicated to bringing awareness and providing education about human trafficking through community-wide initiatives that bring together leadership on the state and local level. Over the past 6 years, our league has hosted several symposiums to educate our community. We have also created public service announcements and provided backpacks for survivors filled with clothing and personal items. This will be our 6th year supporting the Little Black Dress Initiative by wearing the same black dress for 5 days in a row to demonstrate the complete lack of possessions most human trafficking victims have. New this year, the Junior League of Daytona Beach will be sponsoring a 2-day human trafficking training course that will be available to all Volusia County law enforcement agencies. Our State Public Affairs Committee will also be traveling to Tallahassee and Washington in support of 2 bills that will advance our human trafficking initiatives. On behalf of the League, I would like to thank Councilwoman Heather Post and all members of the Council for your support and service.
Thank you. Ms. Post?
In my prior job as law enforcement, I worked on a number of human trafficking issues, and working out of Brevard County,
We actually came up into Daytona to work on some of those things as well. This is an issue that occurs not just in our area, but everywhere. And it was interesting to me in law enforcement, things like gangs, because I also worked on that stuff as well. No one wanted to actually admit that gangs were in their own communities. They didn't want to bring that forward, even though you had many task forces working on those kinds of things. And then it was the same thing with human trafficking. Nobody, they wanted you to work some cases, but not really make an issue out of it, because it wasn't good for the area. And something very important that one of your past presidents, Stephanie Coleman, mentioned the other night in the meeting was when the Junior League of Daytona Beach decided to take this on, and the state Public Affairs Committee for Daytona Beach decided to take this on 6 years ago, people locally refused to talk about it. And everyone thought that this would bring bad light to the area, and no one wanted to discuss it. Businesses were upset, law enforcement was upset, lots of people were upset in the community. And the Junior League of Daytona Beach actually had to bring someone over from Orlando law enforcement to discuss it. But you did, and you started that initiative, and you said, this is very important, and we must bring it forward, and we must help the victims that are in our area. And since then, you have gained so much traction, and you've gotten so much support. Law enforcement agencies all over. As a matter of fact, I believe the symposium is occurring at Daytona PD this year.
Yes.
So a lot has changed, and you now see businesses embracing it. You now see actually the Volusia County Airport now has, in the different airports, you have signs saying, if you're a victim of human trafficking, you can call this number. Please reach out. There are people that can help you. We have that in the hotels. So much has changed. So it is because of the efforts of many people within the Junior League of Daytona Beach that this has happened for our area. And if you think of all of the different women that you have helped and children that you have helped, we always say just one is worth it, right? But the impact has been phenomenal. So I applaud you in that. The speaker that you had there the other night was a survivor of human trafficking, and she now works in this area between Volusia and Flagler counties to talk to victims. And she mentioned that every middle school and every high school in Volusia County has a victim of human trafficking that she has worked with to help them to get through. And so I really, really applaud your efforts and the impact that you have made on the citizens of Volusia County. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and we look forward to continuing that. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. While we're on that one, I think it would be wise to mention that our own Deb Denny's is being recognized as Citizen of the Year next Thursday night by V-Card. I was going to save that for a later time, but those of you who, I think it's sold out, but if you want to come, congratulations, Deb, on that recognition for her work on water and the environment. Okay, we'll move to item M. And the reason I didn't go alphabetically was because first comes first.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I'm going to just make my little blurb before you do. Ladies, I need you to stand up, and I think they even need to come to the front. This is the Friends of the Marine Science Center. I see these ladies plus everybody else in their blue shirts every time I go by, every time I'm there, every time. Thank you. Don't go anywhere.
Good morning, Council. Ginger Dare, Environmental Management Director, and thank you, Ms. Wheeler, for introducing our some representatives of our Friends group. We have Mindy Ash, Arlene Deegan, and Susie Bradley. They are part of the wonderful Friends group that was established very early on in the Marine Science Center's history. They're a nonprofit volunteer group that supports the Marine Science Center. They do fundraising. They help us with special events. The work that they do is critical to what we do at the Marine Science Center. And so today we're here to acknowledge a donation on behalf of the Friends Group. So in August, the council approved an agenda item to construct a new touch pool at the Marine Science Center, and you can see sort of the conceptual drawing of that. We have a touch pool now at the Science Center. It's extremely popular. It's the most popular exhibit in our little exhibit building. But this touch pool is larger and it gives more room for the folks to interact. And so the council supported this project. In August, we let a contract for that. But this donation is to help supplement the county money. So this will help us expand that viewing window you see with so the little kids can really get a look, and also to do some structural support under the building. So the Friends Group have worked hard to raise this money, and we just wanted to thank them for that.
Point to that viewing area so they can actually see where you're. Can you?
I don't know how to work this thing, but
I'm guessing it's up there by Batman.
there we go. This little guy right here. Oh,
Yeah.
it didn't show up.
Yeah. It's the place in the middle with the little child.
Right. And so what we have viewing windows on our touch pool now. This is going to give those little people a lot better experience. So we really are thankful for our Friends Group for this donation and for all of the things they do every day and all year long at the Science Center.
I'm technically
Good.
There you go.
I think we found it. Thank you all. Is there a check? I mean, I'm waiting for it. There's no check?
There's an actual check that'll not
Oh,
exciting.
not a
that will
big
go
one?
actually
Okay.
to the revenue office.
Well, I think it's
There's
great
no big check.
to have people volunteer, and not only volunteer, but offer their time to help raise money to complete a project. That just shows you your enthusiasm, your understanding of volunteerism, going above and beyond, and thank you all for that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. With that, we'll move to item number 2, and this is the election of the County Council Vice Chair for 2020. Ms. Post.
I would like to nominate Councilwoman Gertman for County Council Vice Chair for 2020.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Are there any other nominations?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Fred Lowry.
Second.
Motion made by Wheeler to nominate Fred Lowry, seconded by Ms. Denny's. Are there any other nominations? We'll go ahead and call the vote. Ms. Denny's, I guess we just go ahead. How do we vote on this little screen? Oh, I guess it's down at the bottom. Okay. This is something new, huh? Y'all don't have that? No. I guess I have it.
Oh, we get to select.
I just don't recall this. Everybody vote, sure. Yes. Okay, you want to read us the private results? Unanimously, Fred Lauer, you will serve another year as the Vice Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item number 3, you have before you the list of the adopted county council meeting schedules for the next year. Is there a motion to approve those dates? Ms. Dennis?
Mr. Chair, move approval to adopt the 2020 County Council meeting schedule as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Denny, seconded by Lowry. Any discussion? Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the meeting dates are adopted for 2020. And I'm waiting for tomorrow's leaders to come in. Are they here? I don't see them. Okay, they're not here. So we will move now to item number 4, and this will be John Booker. George, you want to start?
Yeah.
Update on the sunrise. Oh, by the way, the Audio is now available online. I guess those of you who were waiting for it found that out before I announced it.
I haven't put the PowerPoint up. Okay. Mr. Chair, Honorable Council, I want to go ahead and get this started. We have been working for, as you know, some time with the Department of Transportation and the Sunrail Committee down in Orlando, and some things have occurred here in the last few months that brings us to some decision points. The department was able to secure some funding, not from the FTA, but from other sources, to put into the possible capital project of moving forth from DeBerry to DeLand. That's by their estimate, an $80 million project, but that estimate is many years old. So I would guess that that's probably more in the neighborhood of $90 million. They've secured about $34 million. Our share of that would be a little over $19 million. So I want to just give a little background of how we got here real quick, and then we'll talk about these decision points and what they mean as we go forward. Just quickly, for those who may not know, this thing was first approved way back in 2007. The actual system right now runs from Point Siena to DeBerry, about just under 50 miles. Go ahead, next slide. If it comes to DeLand, it would be 61 miles. The agreement actually said that the department would have to use its best efforts to get it there by 2013. Well, we're of course 7 years past that. Go ahead, next page. So, as I said, they've gone ahead and gotten $34 million. That's just a chunk, about a third really of the project. They themselves would have to come up with anything above our $19 million that we would put in on top of that. Those monies, of course, are coming from the department, and the department is, I believe, has come to us. Well, they've come to us and asked us about what direction we want to go with this. They're struggling financially. They have problems across the board on I-4, on all their major projects, just like I think anyone who's doing major construction right now. Costs are through the roof. So I think they're at a point where they would like to either get this project done or use the money in a different way within the system. So they actually approached us. This is not something that we generated. They generated and met with I know the TPO as well. And so through that process, we have worked. We have John Booker and Mike Dyer, and have worked really hard with our partners to discuss, well, if this $34 million was to be used to go to DeLand, what would that mean? Or if the $34 million was put somewhere else in the system, what would that mean as well? So where you're at now, we do maintain right now the DeBerry station that costs around $90,000 to us now a year. However, in 2021, which is the kind of really the big date out there, everyone needs to remember, the department who has been funding everything goes away, and it becomes the responsibility of the county and the other partners. So as we look at that, we would have to take on the DeBerry operation and the running of the system to DeBerry at a minimum, and we can go over in a minute what the cost of that is. With it just in DeBerry, that gives us about 3% of the track cost today, and that's based on really on boardings, not on distance, but we have responsible for that cost. The operation and maintenance of a single track from DeBerry to DeLand would, just the maintenance alone, would add another $1.4 million in annual costs. If the system stays intact to DeLand, that would be as part of the whole system. If we don't go to DeLand, who pays for that 1.4 million is in question. Something we'll have to continue to negotiate. If it doesn't go to DeLand, we still would maintain our seat on the board because we obviously are putting money in, and we will be going to DeBerry. Anything that changes will require changes to the agreements, and that's been just working with these our partners to get to where we're at has been a lot of work. So changing the agreements will mean a lot more work as we go forward. Go ahead, next one. So questions that'll have to be answered is who would be responsible for that unused portion of track from DeBerry to DeLand. The FDOT is the owner of that track. Of course, the department so far has taken the position that they would not be responsible for those costs. And again, they do estimate it would be $1.4 million. Next slide. One thing is for sure, if it is extended to DeLand, the cost to all the partners will increase. That 11.2 miles would get put into the system. They all would take a piece of it, and every single partner would see increased costs, and we'll go over what that is. It's going to take our section from a short bit from the Berry, a little over a mile, to 12.7 miles in Volusia County, and that trips some other formulas, as we'll go over in a second. That means now, rather than having a small percentage of the track, we will now have 20% of the track of the system. And what that means is then our percentage of capital costs going forward will now, instead of being 3%, will be 20%, and that's going to be a much larger number.
7 times more.
So if it goes to DeLand, right, we're going to get into how much. We're going to have to come up with a $19.2 million plus financing. We go from 3 to 21%, as we said. And of course, now we'll also be adding on maintenance of the DeLand station as well. Next slide. So we could talk about costs, various scenarios, and it's kind of complicated, but Osceola County has compiled these estimates with data from the DOT, as we've kind of wrestled with our partners on what all this would mean. Next slide. This just shows, I'm not going to go through all of this because it would be very complex, but it gives you an idea of the scenarios that we've run. But the top scenario there, scenario 1, is what's going to happen if there is no other action. That is the Sunrail going to DeLand, and it gives you an idea of where we are right now, Volusia County. Is in this area right here. You've got, and if everything were to happen with the capital plan, which, by the way, these are estimates people have given us from the department. We're not so sure. They haven't hit any number yet, but you can take a look at that and the insurance, and you kind of see what we're looking at over here. There's a range between $8 million and $6.5 million a year. And keep in mind, and a lot of people may not remember this or know this, as of today, we don't pay anything. It's 2021 when things kick in. So our budget, and I talked to some of the other managers of the other partners, they haven't even contemplated it in their budgets. We have contemplated it. It's in our 5-year forecast, but it's in there at about $3 million, so we're already a little behind on what we're thinking, and we certainly are nowhere near the $6.5 to $7 to $8 million price tag that it looks to be now. So that will have to be dealt with, and as we're talking about these other items, and we're talking about these items today, workshops, it's done with knowing that the Sunrail is out there and there's a big bill coming our way right around the corner. These other scenarios are just where we've tried to look at, well, if it came to DeLand, would other people pick up some of the costs? There's PTC, I'll mention that. That is something new that occurred after we signed the contract. That's a positive track control. That's computerized controlling of the track to avoid accidents. It's a federal requirement that occurred, was put on after there were some commuter rail accidents in the Northeast. And it's a very expensive system, and that's been added. And again, because that was not part of the contract, we feel, along with our partners, that's something that still has to be dealt with. But we've got nothing from the department yet that says that they will pick that up or help out with that. Next slide. So, again, we have other scenarios here. We've got going to DeBerry, but just different ways of trying to allocate the costs. But all of those will depend on our partners or the department picking up something that no one has agreed to do yet. Next slide. So what we try to do is summarize this and into a little bit easier chart. So this is our chart, not Osceola County. So we've kind of put those scenarios there on one place, so you can see, you know, what we're looking at. And they did try this in scenario one. The PTC costs would be allocated across to all the partners. So even with that, and then you put debt service on there, which wasn't contemplated before, and you're looking now maybe $8 to $9.5 million in cost to go to DeLand. So if it stops at DeBerry, where it is today, you're still looking at $4 million plus, and the question of who maintains the track from DeBerry to DeLand. And they're estimating that's another $1.4 million. So you're about $5.5 million if it stops there. So, next slide. All right, I'll try to get some of these off of here. Okay. Next up, so I wanted to point this out. This came from back in 2007. When they brought the idea for a council to vote on. And here were the operating deficits that they were projecting at the time. And in fact, we had caps that were supposed to protect us at that time. However, they have a desire to expand those hours and make it more than a commuter line. And also, I think they have the desire to go out to their airport. So again, how would that affect us? You know, how, as you add these service levels, again, you're adding more costs, and is that going to be divided out? Are we going to be paying that share? And that's something that again would definitely have to be worked out. That's why we will definitely stay at the table as long as we are putting money into the system. Because there'll be a lot to follow. But I will say, and I think this is important, that even the city of Orlando and Orange County believe, if you go to DeLand, and we do want to make some agreement down the road of how we change services and stuff, it may make that negotiation that much more difficult. And so they have concerns about it going to DeLand right now as well. The ticket system we mentioned, that's been a real problem. The department, the previous district secretary had indicated they would be going to a different ticketing system. Of course, to help matters, he's left and we have a new interim district secretary, so the department's in a transition, and that's getting hard to we get some of this stuff settled in a timely manner. Next. I talked about that already. The positive train control next. So, you know, here we are, and we have a letter prepared, but what we've asked for, and we've talked to the partners, at one point, Secretary Thibault was very adamant about moving forward and getting to the land. And again, with some of these questions of cost still unanswered, some of the ideas of who would maintain the track if it doesn't come to the land, they're not answered. And he had given a deadline, and what we've asked to do is get off that deadline. If they have to use the money on other things, they've agreed to use it within the system, or they could wait while we hash some of this stuff out. The idea, I think that we have to understand is that, you know, yes, this is an opportunity that you might not get again for some time. So I don't want anyone to think that it's not a serious situation and we're going to get lots of opportunities at this. I think you're not going to get many if you get any other ones. But I will say, you know, given the financial condition of the system, I feel as a manager that I recommend that we slow it down and ask for more time to work with the department, and that's what our letter basically is saying. Next up. That's actually the letter that already some of the partners have, Seminole County and Osceola County have at least workshopped in Seminole. I'm not sure they gave direct order to send it out like this. We're getting that confirmed. Osceola County, and then our understanding is Orange County and Orlando will send or will commit to a letter like this as well. So it invites, you know, us to continue to negotiate. I will say, and if Mike and Dan want to jump in on this, in dealing even write this letter, it was such a tough process. The contract does provide for conflict resolution process that I think we may have to invoke in order to get some of these items worked out. So you'll have a lot more discussions and actions as we go forward. But really today we're just asking you to send this letter.
Ms. Gertman, you had a question?
I don't have a question. Well, I guess I do have a question. From what was presented and the way it's presented, as though there is no upside, right? There is no upside to Sunrail coming to the land. We're not looking at the economics. We're not looking at the need for infrastructure for West Volusia, the need for investment in West Volusia. And from what was presented, it looks like we have the opportunity to pay $4 million for nothing to come to the land, or $7 to $8 million for investment in the land in West Volusia. So again, I certainly support the letter to say, yes, we need to continue this discussion and
That in the form
evaluation.
of a motion? So we can continue discussion on, that's what
Oh,
we're.
sorry.
Was that in the form of a motion?
That is in the form of a motion.
Thank you. It is.
Motion, any motion.
Okay. Motion by Ms. Gertman to approve me signing the letter with the other partners to the Secretary Thibault, seconded by Ms. Dennis. Now continue.
Now you made me lose my track. Okay. No, just kidding.
Because what it does keep open the DeLand option.
Right, right. But again, what has been presented is every downside with no consideration of what could this look like for the community, for Volusia, for destination tourism for the things and the reason why the discussion even happened for it to come to DeLand. So I just want to ensure that we get on the record that that information needs to be shared as well.
Okay.
And we need to have that information communicated.
Before we go any further, I will state that I met with the newly appointed COO of Sunrail, with the newly appointed temporary interim District 5 secretary yesterday, along with another person with FDOT, and they did share some things with me, which gives me encouragement that some of these May 1, 2021 deadlines may not be drop dead, because that's the transition period. This letter of negotiation, you will not believe that it's taken probably a year or maybe 7 years to get this commission to agree to adjust anything, to get them to even talk. And the newly appointed people I dealt with yesterday were apologetic on that fact, and I believe we'll have better action and better results. George working with them on the discussion, and having the 5 members now willing to sign their name to adjust something gives me encouragement that we will, by the end of this year, be able to have other things adjusted, which will affect all of us in the future on the Sunrail. So that's the important part. But I know we were going to have an update. This is an update. One of the paramount things to this, which adds into the downside, is something that the other commission members, which is Orange County, Orlando, Seminole, and Osceola, said they weren't aware that these funds that go to District 5 for transportation for our roadways, this goes against it. And we already know the funds are going to be cut next year. We know cost is already going up. So finding out that for sure, the money that they have to put, because they'll have to put at least another $40 million into the project for DeLand and anything else that they do as well. So, I did find out one encouraging part. They have now reduced the deficit per ticket to $23 instead of $40 or $30. So it's $23 for every ride. It's a loss is compensated. We compensate. It costs $23 for each person who taps on and off. Cost us $23. So I said we can Uber them all in a bus or something, and that didn't work. Mr. Johnson.
I fully agree with Ms. Gertman about the letter. When this thing first started, they promised us a racehorse and kind of delivered us a worn-out old mule. But I would like to commend Mr. Chairman, you getting something moving on this. For a long time, they were ignoring us totally, and it's just something that, some people would like to have, but what can we afford? How much can we tack on to our citizens of this county? Just a unfunded mandate, basically, we're pouring money into, when there's more efficient ways maybe to get our people to the DeBerry station. So I do support that we continue on with the negotiations, with you negotiating with them, and we try to find some suitable or close to suitable manner in which we can make this work without it being just a bottomless hole for our citizens.
Thank you. Fred?
I agree with everything that's been said up to this point, so I won't belabor it, but we also have that dark cloud of Amendment 10 hanging over us, and we don't know what that's going to end up. And so I want to try to keep taxes as low as possible and protect our citizens. And so while this letter expresses what I feel, and I know I represented you down there one time, Mr. Chair, and man, there was not really a healthy attitude. That's all I can say. I'm glad to hear that the attitude's changed a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The strength that we've had to date and will continue to have is our veto power. That's the only thing that has kept us in the game, because as the 5 funding partners, if we don't all agree according to the contract, there has to be a complete agreement for anything to go through. And they want to go over to MCO, right, to the Orlando International Airport. They can't do that without our support. And correct? So today, we vote no. Volusia votes no until until we can work through these contract negotiations. But Mr. Chair, I agree with what Councilman Johnson said. You have done a heavy lift to articulate Volusia's position in a way that our other funding partners understand the impact to them. I mean, it sounds like great, oh, these federal dollars are available. Okay, well, then what happens afterwards, right? I mean, we're already looking at a $40 million deficit currently that is so out of line. And as far as the tapping on and tapping, we might be better off to just do away with the whole system, just let people get on and off. That could solve that whole issue right then, just open it up. But then again, in increasing the hours, first of all, it needs to be said that nobody on this council, nobody, voted for this Sunrail contract that we're struggling with today. And honestly, I don't think it would pass this council today if it came back without the safeguards and the clawback provisions that were not put in originally, which is why we are where we are. But my concern too is, and actually it is, it's not an unfunded mandate, it's an actually very funded, demanding mandate that will be funded by our citizens and by our general fund. So we have a mandate. My concern with FDOT is the high turnover. There is no stability at FDOT. There's no stability, at least in our district. None at all. And Mr. Manager, we went to DeLand in good faith. We had a really good meeting a couple months back.
Yes, we did.
And the two of us walked out going, whoa, okay, we're getting somewhere. Because we were at that time. And then we're not. And the secretary's gone, and they're trying to restaff. But here, and I was going to bring this up in a council member comment time, but I'm going to bring it up now since it relates to FDOT. And Councilman Wheeler was there. This past Friday, we had an executive committee meeting. We both serve on the executive committee of the Flagler Volusia Transportation Planning Organization. And FDOT was main front. John, I don't know if John Cheney's here. If he was, Mr. Manager, I would bring him up to the microphone right now. So FDOT has only our district, not statewide, just our district, has put a new requirement in on some projects that we have 48 hours to make a decision on some funding opportunities. Well, we can't even call by law a special meeting of the executive TPO board meeting without a 48-hour notice. So we're in violation immediately of our own requirements by the state, an ordinance that FDOT approved, and they override and say, oh, by the way, we're going to give you 48 hours, you're going to make this decision. Who's going to make this decision? Now we've created which intersection is going to get knocked down. So this is like a chess game, and the pieces are getting manipulated, and we're just sitting back trying to figure out who the pawn is. And it's frustrating right now. Working with FDOT is extremely frustrating because we're creating an adversarial relationship that we have yet to see play out, come up pretty quickly these next couple years. So I'm sharing that with you to share the frustration that we have that you don't see in these executive sessions and these other meetings that we have with these agencies, right, Councilman Wheeler? I mean, it was all about FDOT at the last meeting.
Okay, let's move it on just a little bit. Dan, Mr. Eckert.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So if the motion passes for your staff and your attorney, the direction that you would be giving them is to negotiate. I just want to say it aloud that you would be telling them to negotiate an agreement. This is going to return to the council if you negotiate an agreement that has a satisfactory cost share for the portion from DeBerry to DeLand, then that's one outcome, and I think council's saying by this motion that that's a satisfactory outcome to you. If we're unable, if the staff is unable to negotiate a cost share, and then and FDOT is saying, well then, that's your cost, Volusia, then I suspect that the issue would return to you. But that's the way so what you're saying is, you're going to negotiate an agreement that attempts to mitigate your costs and have it end at DeBerry, for the time being at least.
Right. This is the letter directed to Secretary Tebow to accept what we're doing, and the commission has agreed, which they've never seen anything with this commission since its foundation agreed to do anything jointly to the secretary or to take action. Ms. Post, and then we've got one individual who wants to speak on whether we send the letter or not. Ms. Post?
Well, I actually wanted to move approval.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. And I'll go ahead. Steve? Tonge? And if you'll state your name, address for the record, and why we should or should not send the letter.
Thank you. My name is Steve Tonges. I live at 423 West Pennsylvania Avenue in DeLand. I wanted to reiterate Barbara's points that this money that we're worried about, we have to remember it's an investment. It looks like a lot, but as you all have pointed out, the roadway costs are going up as well. Transportation never pays for itself with direct fees. Fares or gasoline taxes don't pay for the highway costs. I think we need to remember that this kind of transportation ultimately has been shown to enrich communities, to be the most effective and best for the taxpayers, ultimately, so that they can get around without having to get into their cars, which, as I'd said, those costs are going up as well. I would support the letter so that we can continue to discuss this.
Thank you.
But I would remind you that this is, expensive as it is, it's a better investment than our dollars going to continue to clog up the roads. I worked for DOT until 2014, from 1986, and we're just building bigger and bigger parking lots to build highways. And I should point out that you all have approved land use around the DeLand station, transit-oriented development.
I think DeLand did that.
Did we finally take that over?
No.
In any case, DeLand has approved a number of developments, probably at greater density than we would have, in the corridor we've identified as leading to the DeLand station. So we've got investment, we've got land use changes that have been made. People, if that station comes in, there will be people right there to ride the train, and they won't have to worry about getting to it. And so I would urge you to look at the upside, to see this as an investment.
Okay, thank you. And
I have one more comment.
Okay.
I just wanted to make two just very quick comments to point out. I know that we're mentioning that that this system is not profitable, but I do want to point out as well that no public transportation system is profitable in any way. And I've had some comments recently on Votran about how much money we put into Votran, and Votran is not a profitable system because it is a public transportation system. So that is something that the government bodies need to take into consideration, is that investment at some point for public transportation, that none of that is profitable. And I'm certainly not negating the letter. I want to make that point. The second thing is I just wanted to clarify, because the Councilwoman Gertman brought up, and I know you have it on the slides, but I just wanted to make sure and put this point out for the public to understand. So she had mentioned that basically $4 million to go to the DeLand station, or I'm sorry, to the DeBerry station to keep it as it is, and then it would be basically double that, correct, to extend it to DeLand.
That's about right. I mean, and unfortunately, we're dealing with
I don't
only
think those
estimates.
numbers are correct, George.
Pardon me?
I don't think those numbers are anywhere close to being correct on the numbers that we've worked on.
So that's what I wanted to clarify,
Okay.
because that's a pretty important factor.
they're higher
And I
than
know
that.
we've had many questions in the public about that, so I wanted to.
We've tried to be conservative in.
I know you did, but when you go
So-
from 3% to 21%, that's 7 times.
Right, but just understand on that, I think for everyone to understand on the difference on that. The 3% and the 7%, I'll explain that, and then Dan can jump in at any point. But the 3% part to 21%, the 21% applies to the capital improvements that you'll have in the system. You know, when you run a big system like that, you have your day-to-day operating costs,
Well,
and
the
then you have capital improvements or capital additions, like for say, they need to add a new train set, you know, a new diesel engine and more cars because they run out. So those are things like that that would go up to 21%, but it wouldn't happen all the time, so they would be, you know, spread out over maybe several years. Or maybe if for whatever reason they had to add a crossing, or they had to do things that, again, they're capital in nature, we pick up a higher percentage of that, the 21% if it extends to DeLand. We do pick up more with on the operating, but that's based on boardings.
Right.
So that'll have a lot to do with how successful DeLand is. The estimates are around 200 riders a day, you know, and so that goes into the entire system, the pot, and so that effect is a little bit less. But the 21% will be on projects and big items that they have to buy, and this is the trick, and we don't know what they are. We you know, they can't tell us, and that's the scary thing. You know, I think that if everyone really had a good, comfortable feeling for what all those costs really were, then you can make a better decision. I just, you know, given that we are running tight on everything, it just is, I need more answers. I think this council needs more answers and is owed more answers, so that you are able to make good decisions. And right now, we're working off of just so many questions and so many estimates that, you know, have not borne out to be true. So,
Okay, well, let's just understand this. I will bring it back to the council for your approval on what we are discussing before. I'm not empowered to commit us doing anything. It will all come back here for this council to approve whatever it is and to discuss whatever it is we come back with, hopefully better numbers. Mm-hmm. And that's the point that I want to emphasize is. And I understand the value of development and how that will around the area and the economic development. I mean, they point out a specific one. No, I'll leave that alone. Of what they've done around the Tupperware Center. It's supposed to.
So that was the point that I was trying to make, is really we need to have the whole perception. So in order to continue the conversation, forward to getting that information as we go along and making.
yeah, we can take a look at what the land use is today, and, you know, where we're at. It's interesting, as a council, you guys wrestled with development in that area just a few meetings ago, and the density on that was about half the density of what would normally be required in and around a TOD station. So that's just stuff to think about. We'll bring that back and see what the potential is.
Okay. Ready to vote?
I'm just real quick. I just wanted to get my little point in there. I concur with the letter and all of that, but I did want to throw in also what Council Member Denny's had said, that she and I are both on the executive committee at the TPO, and these uncertainties yet, these unknowns are what's just holding me back. I would be thrilled to see it go to DeLand and to see what it could happen there, but we have so many unknowns for the expense. This summer, FDOT came before the Transportation Board and increased a project $800,000, and a small project, $800,000. They stood at the microphone and they said, "You accept it." At that time, they gave us a week. Now we have 2 days. The board either accept it, and we said, well, what if we don't? And they said, then the item comes off the list. That was it. So that means we have to go tell people who have saved up, cities that have saved up money for projects, no, your project is now out or it's down at the bottom of the list. It was that quick. You either give us another $800,000 for the project, or the project's off the list. So those uncertainties, we need to have a little bit more clarity in all of that.
Okay, and just to finalize this, we're dealing with the third state secretary, at least the third FDOT secretary, and at least the third Sunrail COO or operate secretary. So any objection to the motion? Hearing no objection, the motion to submit the letter and discussion is approved unanimously. We'll move to item number 5, but before we do that, sorry, Rick, we have to recognize the invasion of tomorrow's leaders. Now, they came in, they scattered about because they couldn't find seating. Some were standing, maybe still even at this time. Pat, do you want to introduce, have them all stand and thank them all for taking their time to come in and show us what, Cynthia, you going to tell us what we can expect from these tomorrow's leaders?
It's a pleasure to be back. Thank you for having us. We have a full day today with our tomorrow's leaders. These are 40 high school juniors from all 10 of the public high schools here in Volusia County.
And you are Cynthia Ramirez?
And I am, sorry for the record, Cynthia Ramirez from Ormond Beach, and I am the director of Futures Foundation for Volusia County Schools. We take these students out on 5 full-day seminars. Today is Criminal Justice and Government and Education Day. So we will be visiting at lunch with the sheriff and several, Dana Page Pender, the HR director, and several other leaders from the county. We will then be going over to the historic courthouse for a tour with Jewel Dixon from the museum. Then we'll head over to Supervisor of Elections, Lisa Lewis, and she and her team will give us a wonderful overview of the importance of elections and what their department does. Then we'll go over to the school board offices, and the superintendent and the school board chair, Mrs. Wright, will address the students, as well as Mr. Aiken and Sarah Lee Morrissey. So it's a full day. They're great students. These are hand-selected students. It's a very competitive process that they go through, an application process to become part of this program, and we're very proud of them.
Well, and I can see some of them even wore blue in honor of Law Enforcement Day today, as I wore my blue tie, which is not like me to wear this blue tie. But anyway, it's usually red, but that's okay. Yeah. Today I wore blue in honor of Law Enforcement Day, and I guess they all know that. Or maybe if you didn't, you can tell the sheriff that you appreciate what he does. So
we will. We will make sure that we
tell
tell
that you are aware of that.
Yes. But
so would you all like to stand, or what's your...
Can we come up and have a photo with all of you?
Absolutely.
We try to do that every year.
Come on up and...
have a quick break to do a photo?
Sure. Come on up and we'll do that. Rick's anxiously waiting. Not anxious. hurry over to see the sheriff. He's waiting on you. Law Enforcement Day. Yep. Okay, Rick, I think we can go ahead and start with item 5.
All right,
master
thank you,
plan.
Mr. Chair, members of the council. Rick Carl, Director of Aviation. I'm here today with Karen Feaster, our Deputy Airport Director, and Eric Troit, who's our Director of Projects and Maintenance. Before we get into the item, I would like just to acknowledge and call out Karen and Eric, and also our Director of Airport Operations, Dan Blake. They were recently received their airport accreditation. They're fully accredited airport executives by the American Association of Airport Executives. It's a big deal. It's a multi-year process. It culminates, and it's like a master's dissertation defense. You have to sit down with a panel of your peers from airports around the country, and it's a very big deal, and it reflects their dedication to the industry and their job, to making sure that you have the highest degree, the best and the brightest people working here that are highly educated. So thank you, George, for your support, and Suzanne with this, and please acknowledge this is a big deal, and I'm very proud of all three of them. This item that's before you, real quickly, we're going to try to go through this. It's a little complicated, but it's there's really two things that are our number one priority. One is to make sure that we protect the safety of the air traveling public, safety above all else. But right behind that, the airport, as a commercial service airport, has to be financially independent. The FAA requires us to be financially independent. We do not use ad valorem tax dollars for operating this airport. We have to earn.
Could you repeat that? Just so somebody didn't hear that.
We do not use ad valorem tax
taxes
dollars to operate the Daytona Beach International Airport. And the revenue comes from a variety of sources, including the parking revenue, the other concessions, the land that we lease to hotels, other things. And this program is one of those revenue streams that comes through. And just to put this in perspective, I've been airport director 10 years this month. During that time, we've undertaken over $90 million in capital improvements, over $90 million in capital improvement. Most of that is funded by the FAA, 90%, and the FDOT does fund 5% of these projects, and some of it comes out of our own airport reserves. But many of those projects are maintenance. Rehabbing the taxi area right now is a $35 million project. So this is a very important revenue source for us, and it comes from the users. So it's very important. And I'll ask Karen if she could come up and just real quickly run through this and just make sure that if you have any questions, we can answer them. Karen Feaster.
Okay. Good morning. Good morning. Okay. So as Rick mentioned, PFC program, it's a federal program through the FAA, and it allows commercial service airports to have another funding source for capital improvements or other projects that are eligible. Okay, so our current program, we've actually started collecting PFCs in 1993, so we've been doing this for 27 years, and right now we're approved to collect the 29.4, and as of September 30th, we've collected 28.3, and of that, those are the 4 projects that are in that program. So we did the in-transit facility in the International Building, we extended runway 7 left back in 94. We purchased some land on the south side of the south side of the airport, and then also our terminal debt service repayment. So it went towards the terminal project, and we expect to have the full collection by July of this year. So this program that we're going to run through the projects, its total is $14.8 million, and our charge effective date, which is basically just the start date, would be August 1st, and we think it will take us until November 1st of 29 to do the full collection, and that's based on the employment level and our estimates going forward. Okay, so real quick, our projects, our Taxway November is mentioned. So on the left is the full project, and on the right just shows you phase 2. We're getting ready to go to phase 3 and 4. There's some council agenda items on the next one. And that basically will reimburse us for the local portion of the grant. And then the PFC consultation is the consultant, RS&H, out of Jacksonville. They will be reimbursed for the work that they've done on this project. They put the application together, went through the airport consultation meeting with us. And then terminal renovations. So part of that is the terminal project that we've seen lots of pictures, and here's some recent ones. So on the left is the previous, and then on the right is very recent. So the water features going in there in the front, and then here's some of the millwork on the ticket counter area. So this will reimburse a little portion of that, and also include some other items that we are considering terminal renovations, such as the fire alarm system, aircraft units for the jet bridges, another amenity the air carriers like to see, and of course the passengers, and then also PC Air for the airplane itself. And then ARF trucks are the aircraft fire and rescue trucks. So unit 1 and 2, one of them would be paid for fully with PFC, and the other one would be the local portion. And we'd like to get started quickly on those, especially unit 1, because they take a year to build. And runway, this is a safety area off one of the approach ends of the runway, and what it is just grading and repiping and whatnot, and it's a safety project. And then the aircraft beacon, that is a visual navigational aid that's used by the pilots. And the sweeper truck is basically as you'll see on the roads, picks up what we call FOD, or foreign object debris, off of runways, make sure that it's safety, there's no ingestion into aircraft engines. And the stormwater pond is relocating that hopefully to the south of the airport to get that away from the approach of the runway. It's obviously a safety issue. And the mask lighting around the terminal building, that's the original mask lighting, so we'd like to replace that, and they have new technologies out there that make it actually a safer, easier unit and more efficient. And then, of course, the passenger boarding bridges. So these are actually the original bridges for the terminal. The terminal's now 27 years old. We did do a full refurbishment it's probably been about 10 years, but they're getting to the point, the end of their useful life, that it's time to do a full replacement. So that is all of the projects. I'll leave it to questions, or if there's any additional information that we can provide.
Ms. Wheeler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to move approval of the continuation of passenger facility charge PFC program.
Ms. Post.
Well, I was going to second it, but I also wanted.
I'll give it to you.
Well, I also wanted.
Motion made by Wheeler, second by Post.
Yes. Well, I also wanted to point out and really stress, just as Councilman Wheeler said, though, but that this is not an additional fee on the public. This is simply continuing the fee that we currently charge, or that is currently charged to passengers, and it's 11 cents per.
Right, so it is collected by the airlines. The fee is $4.50. They do keep 11 cents as a handling fee.
Okay.
And then the $4.39 goes to the airport to fund these safety projects.
So the $4.39.
Correct.
Okay, but it's just a continued thing.
It's
no
a continued
additional.
thing we've been collecting for 27 years so far.
Thank you.
Is the relocation of the water retention for the development of the southern part of the area or not? That's not part, okay, that's all. Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously, and we will move now to item 6, which is sponsorship request from Chisholm High Alumni Association for Deltona Dr. Martin Luther King celebration.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Oh, sorry. I just did your work for you, Brian, but go ahead.
Okay, good. Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair, County Council. I'm Brian Rothwell, Activity Project Manager. Item number 6 is the sponsorship request from Greater Union Life Center Incorporated for their 41st annual celebration of the Dr. Martin Luther King Day celebration, which will happen January 20th.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the sponsorship?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Gertman, seconded by Post to approve the sponsorship from Greater Union Life Center 41st annual celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King Day on January 20th. Any objection? Any discussion, objection? Hearing no objections, motion passes unanimous. I only did 6A for you, so go ahead.
That's correct. And item 6A is the sponsorship request from Chisholm High School Alumni Association for the Daytona Martin Luther King celebration, which will happen on January 18th.
Motion by Lowry,
Second.
second by Gertman. Any discussion? Any objection to the motion? Hearing no objection, the motion passes unanimous. And now we even have 6B on there, don't we? Kevin?
Good morning,
Captain,
County
sir.
Council, staff, honorable members. Kevin Captain, Interim Community Information Director. We're starting off the year with a bang. A lot of really cool events coming up, and it's going to start out with the National Endowment for the Arts Big Read that starts on the 25th of January. It's going to run through Leap Day in February. This is we've done it 5 years. The book this year is Everything I Ever Told You by Celeste Ng, and it's a New York Times bestseller. This is going to be the last year for the Big Read, and next year the library is going to go towards a community read, so that's going to be real exciting. The next event is the Echo Gallery's reception at the Ocean Center on Wednesday the 5th. That's going to be from 5:30 to 7, and it honors our local photographers, those that have an allure to the aerial photography. So we'll see you there. And then we have the Daytona Beach Half Marathon coming up on February 8th and 9th. The 8th is the Beach 5K, and the 9th is the Lap the Track and the 13-mile half marathon. All participants get a ticket to the Clash at Daytona, and when you're on the track, you might even see a NASCAR racer on the track too. So that's going to be an exciting event. If you learn more at DaytonaBeachHalf.com. And then we have the water quality update, sponsored by Volusia County. Panelists also include the Dr. Ann Shortelli from the DEP, the St. John's Water Management District, and the Florida's Chief Resilience Officer, Dr. Julia Nishawat. So that's good. She's going to be doing the opening remarks, and that's going to make it a very unique event. It's going to be at the Edgewater City Council Chambers. 8:30 starts with coffee, 9 o'clock with the event, and then it'll go till about noon on Saturday. So looking forward for that event, and it's hosted by Councilwoman Deb Denny's. Then we have the Wildlife Festival at the LEC, same day, February 8th. That's going to be a great event for environmental displays, kids' activities, eco buggy tours, and hopefully we'll have good weather that day. It should be a good event over at the LEC. And last but not least, for February 8th, again, this is going to be a busy day in February. The North Turn Legends Parade is going to kick off at 12:30 on Saturday, February the 8th. It's the 9th annual parade, and Votran will provide free shuttle service from 3 sites, the Tornita Avenue Beach Park, Jerry's Italian Grill and Tiki Bar, and the 7-Eleven in Ponce Inlet. The annual parade is a cooperative partnership among the Volusia County Government, County Council, the Town of Ponce Inlet, and Racing's North Turn Restaurant. And another event for Volusia Magazine. It's coming up this Saturday. We have 3 really cool features. One is going to be the E911 Redirect Nurse Triage Program. You get to learn more about that. And the Ocean Center's new plant-based food options. And I'll tell you, they taste really good. You can't even believe that it's not meat. And also a story on Sharon Gamble. She was the former director of the Extension and IFAS, and it's a story about her service to Volusia County government. Those are the events. I want to talk just a couple of minutes about the event from November 17th to the 30th, and that was the Public Employees Feed the Need Drive. I'm going to go through some of the results. For the elected officials, courts, 82 pounds. Elections, 43. Sheriff's Office, look at that, 1,200 pounds. Property appraisers, almost 2,000 pounds. Health Department, close to 500. County Manager's Office, over 300. Aviation, 118. That includes economic development. Budget and administrative, 4,400 pounds. That's a lot for budget. And business services, look at revenues amount there, 4,000 pounds. That really stands out. Community services, several hundred pounds, with Votran and Library Services leading the charge.
Agriculture had 1 pound? Ag Center? 1 pound from the Ag Center?
Brad's got a little work to do.
That was a misprint. All right, send them a note. All right.
We'll give them the report card.
George, can you make sure, or Suzanne, make sure that they get a note and send that and highlight their contribution?
We will do that. We have a new director, and I'm sure they'll do
We'll
better.
increase the poundage there.
Thank you.
GRM's total is 1,400. Finance with HR, 1,300. That's raising up there too. Volusia County's Ocean Center, 1,100. Public Protection, every division certainly donated there. And look at Corrections, 1,760. And by the way, Corrections did a phenomenal job with this event because they picked up, orchestrated, and really did all the literal heavy lifting for this event, which was over 100 sites. Wow. So you can imagine they were very, very busy. So kudos out to Director Flowers' team with that, because this drive could not have been possible without their assistance. Public Works, everyone there, and look at Coastal and Jessica Winterwerp's team. That's great, over 1,000 pounds. The swine auction, 230 pounds, Dr. Lowry. So that couple hundred there, and the food for fines from the library was over 6,000 pounds of food. Amazing. So the grand total, 23,000, and budget and purchasing is the winner for county. Now we go to cities and agencies. Daytona State, 77, the city of Daytona Beach, 625, DeBerry, 401, and DeLand, over 3,000. 3,500. Deltona, 36, Edgewater, 1,500, Holly Hill, 98, and New Smyrna Beach, 11,900 pounds. Amazing how much poundage there. Cities and agencies continued. Orange City, 2,800, Ormond Beach, 344, and Pearson, 54. Moving right along, Ponce Inlet, 2,500 pounds, Port Orange, 1,487, South Daytona, 574, and the Schoolway Cafe at 9,432 pounds. That is a lot of food there
must have
as
contributed
well.
everything the students didn't eat. I'm just that all went somewhere else to eat.
Got a couple of cool pictures of all the sites that were so proud and enthused at doing this drive. So the total for this year is 69,000 pounds. It's up about close to around 7% from last year. A tremendous amount. We want to thank everyone for participating in this event. Now, every year we always do winners, and it's everyone really who participated in this made a difference. But if any of these agencies are here, we'd like for you to come up. We have a certificate, but we first want to start out with the overall. When we look at the amount of poundage versus the number of FTEs that they have in the agency or organization, that's a ratio that we can at least look at objectively to say, wow, those people are really given a lot of food. But we also know that the FTEs can waver from day to day. But nevertheless, if the city of Ponce Inlet, if anybody's here, they are the top for the most pounds per FTE. And I'll bring you that certificate to take to them. And then we have the city with the most pounds, New Smyrna Beach.
You'll take
And then we have the top agency, Volusia County Schools with the Schoolway Cafe. Anybody here from Volusia County Schools? I saw Greg Aiken. And then the county division, purchasing and budget. Come on up.
Hey, Kevin, can you explain an FTE?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Denny. An FTE is a full-time equivalent. So what it basically means is one full-time position. And so when we look at the amount of poundage, city of New Smyrna Beach, or some of the bigger cities are obviously going to have bigger poundage. That was a way for us to narrow it.
Of the school board coming in?
Volusia County Schools. That's purchasing and budget.
Cool. Oh, sorry. Full-time equivalent, a number of people, like in students, full-time enrollment. Jeez. The number, 60,128 students, FTEs. Come on, Billy. You're a math person.
Great time for some quick pictures, if we could. Thank you.
Heather, I'm trying.
That's fine.
And that concludes the events for this month. Any questions?
Ms. Post.
Kevin, I didn't want to interrupt you because you launched into the food drive, which is fantastic. But I wanted to go back to Volusia Magazine. You mentioned all the wonderful things that you were highlighting. Can you tell the public where they can find Volusia Magazine and at what times, please?
I sure can. Absolutely. So, Volusia Magazine is aired on WDSC TV. That's the public television show that is aired by Daytona State College. It's channel 15 on Spectrum. It'll be 5 p.m. Sunday, January the 12th, and it repeats the following day on Monday, January the 13th. And that, when they repeat it on the Monday, it's at 7:30. So set your DVR.
Weekly program?
That is a weekly program, and we refresh the content as quickly as possible. Thank you. We're glad to hear it, and it's great to learn about a lot of the county services that we provide through that show. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
PM, 7:30 p.m. on Monday.
Kevin, do we also archive them on?
Thank you, Mr. Recknerwald. Yes, as a matter of fact, the question was, do we archive them? And they are on volusia.org. You can do an easy search that says Volusia Magazine, and all of the historical features of Volusia Magazine are there as a link. They open up, and they actually will play right there on that same page. So if you want to learn more and more about county government and the great services of Volusia County, just sit in front of the computer one day and you can watch many, going back years, of Volusia Magazine features.
Okay, and where are these distributed, the booklet?
Those are, that's the big read pamphlet for Everything I Ever Told You, and they'll be at the libraries.
Where are they distributed? Just at the libraries?
At the libraries, and we can distribute them in more places as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm blown away by our 15 libraries that we have and everything that's done. So just make sure that this gets out to people who may not take advantage of.
Absolutely.
What's it? Thank you. Okay, we'll move
Anybody else?
to. That's it. We'll move to item number 7. Ms. Weaver, was that you? Oh.
Yes, sorry.
The process
For appointment of county attorney. I would like to make a recommendation for Mike Dreyer to be the interim county attorney, effective immediately.
Okay, is there a second to that?
I'll second.
We need an interim.
Absolutely. Dan's leaving on the 31st,
And then we need
right?
to proceed at some point on how we establish a full-time attorney, go about hiring that person. So, Mr. Johnson.
I want to start this by saying I know Mike and highly respect Mike and even talked to him about this. I've known his parents, his grandparents. Mike is also, without a doubt, going to be in the running for the full-time county attorney. There's no doubt about that. I think as such that we'd be better off taking one of the other county council, one of the other county attorneys and have them sit as the acting county attorney while this process is going on. It sometimes can reek of transparency when we throw somebody in there, and then they do get picked, and right off the bat everybody said, well, this was a foregone conclusion, and it also may eliminate some very good candidates from possibly putting in. So I would recommend that, and like I said, this is not a slight on Mike, because there's always a good chance that once they come up that I'll highly support Mike. There's always a good chance of that. But I still think that in order to keep the process a little cleaner, that we should take maybe one of the other county attorneys and have them act as an interim.
Okay. Ms. Gertman.
Well, I guess what's the assumption that that the others won't apply for the position? So I don't think one thing precludes the other, and I think as long as we define a transparent process of determining how we select the next county manager.
Attorney.
I'm sorry. Oops.
We understood.
George, you're saying that was not a Freudian slip.
Same page.
You made
Same
George
page.
cough on that
Sorry
one.
about that, George.
George
the
fell
next
over in his
attorney.
chair, Barb. He fell back in his chair. Look at
Yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that impacts transparency as long as we keep it transparent.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Okay. Ms. Denny's.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to make Councilwoman Gertman's point, I'm just going to say one name, George Rechtenwald.
There you go.
Yeah, that's my thought.
Process work then, it's transparent, and you're right, everything we do will happen in here. It will be transparent, it will be discussed publicly. But the only question is, Councilwoman Wheeler, what date were you looking effective of this appointment?
My recommendation that I stated was effective immediately. I think that's only fair to,
To allow a transition?
exactly, exactly.
Okay. Ms. Post?
Well, I think since Mike has been, he's been very active in his role, and I know I have had many discussions with him as well as with Dan Eckert on various things. I don't see the need to put him in immediately. I think Dan's, your last day is the 31st, correct? So to make that transition, you know, if he's the interim, I think it would be respectful to let Dan completely finish out his term. Mike is doing the job that he has done, and Dan will be here to assist, I'm sure, in the next coming weeks. To simply wait till the 1st.
You want to make that in the form of amendment to the motion?
Absolutely.
Okay. Motion is made that the position of interim attorney doesn't begin until February 1st.
Or the 31st, whatever, whenever,
31st
to make
is
sure
his- 31st
legally
is his
that we
last
actually have
day.
Be February 1st.
an official county
February
attorney.
1st,
Yes.
31st is the last day of Dan's. So there's a motion to basically not have interim begin immediately, but begin on February 1st. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion seconded by Ms. Gertman. Any further discussion on the amendment?
And I do have one more point to
Okay,
make.
yeah.
So our discussion was on transparency and moving in that direction. And, you know, I would just say to that, I think it's very important that we're making the decisions based on the best decisions and that we not worry about, you know, backlash from the public or political grief or any of that other stuff. It is what it is, and I think that we need to be very confident in our decisions, and so I have no problem putting Mike in as the interim county attorney.
Okay. Ms. Gertman?
This item is, the process for it is on our list for, or of topics for this afternoon, correct? So it's not like we're got a long delay with just determining or having that discussion, so.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I'm not sure, but what the suggestion of the process of the attorney was submitted after this was on the agenda. And so the process. Yep.
Does it have to wait and push out other issues
That was my
during the
point.
workshop?
It doesn't necessarily have to go to this afternoon because this afternoon we can't vote on the process. Now we have on an amendment to make the effective date February 1 as opposed to January 9th. I'm going to do that, but I'm clearing it up. So we could continue the discussion if council would like on the process after we do this interim action. So right now, sorry, go ahead.
So I would like, because I think we're talking about the department and process and so forth, so I think one thing might impact the other.
Okay.
So if it's my preference, I'd like for us to have the workshop and then put the process on the next agenda to finalize it so we can talk it through a bit more thoroughly.
Okay, but the process is on this agenda,
Is it?
right here. Item 7. And that's what I'm saying. I think that the discussion for a workshop was submitted without the knowledge that this process was on the agenda. Does that make sense?
Mr. Chair, I think the discussion for the workshop was the department in itself, the whole structure. But you're saying...
Wait just a minute. Let's not get into open conversation. Ms. Gertman? Okay. So right now, what we need to do is we need to vote on the amendment, okay? And the amendment would make the effective date of the interim of Michael, what's his last name? Dyer. Dyer, effective February 1st as opposed to the motion? All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed to that say aye. Aye. I catch it 4-3. The name would be Gertman, Post, Johnson voted for. The other 4 voted against. You can guess who those 4 were. Is that correct? The other ones. Okay, now we have the motion to approve Michael Dyer effective immediately as the interim county attorney. Any further discussion, Mr. Johnson?
No, I just think for a minute we were getting confused in reference of temporary versus the process. I think that was kind of getting a little bit confused, but I think, that's kind of straightened out now.
Not to me, but we're good. So we'll have the vote on the motion, and all in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Those passes unanimous with no opposition. Mike Dyer is appointed effective immediately as the interim attorney. Okay, that takes us into public participation. I have no cards here in front of me, but I do see one coming because I knew that he would be here to speak. I guessed. Mr. Nicholson, state your name, address for the record. Oh, that's Kelly McGee. Where's Kelly? Kelly, okay, John, you don't have a card.
Yeah, the one that says P.
That was for the AM one.
And I was told that the AM would be noticed at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
As you said, I thought.
Oh, it would be if you didn't make it, so yes. Go ahead, Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, honorable members of County Council. I'm Kelly McGee. My address is 372 Heritage Estates Lane in DeLand. I'm here today on behalf of the Riverside Conservancy to respectfully request that you place Volusia Forever and Echo on your priority list as you look towards your priorities this afternoon. We request that you place these programs on a future agenda for full discussion and vetting. And ultimately, we ask that you place these programs on the ballot in 2020 so that the voters can weigh in on these programs. If continued and updated, these programs could be invaluable tools to protecting water quality and aquatic habitats, as well as promoting resilience throughout our county. Subtle updates to Volusia Forever and Echo could prioritize water quality improvements. And I know you've heard a lot about Echo this morning and you're very familiar with the programs, so I won't duplicate those comments. However, I did speak with the United States Department of Agricultural District Conservationist yesterday, and he reminded me that the USDA has matching funds for conservation easements. And so if Volusia Forever is reauthorized, that funding could be available as match. You know, in addition to the other sources, a lot of the cities and other agencies have contributed to matching dollars for Volusia Forever. And those funds could be spent on stormwater improvements because, you know, stormwater management really helps protect the quality of our waters, particularly our surface waters. And Volusia Echo, with some subtle updates, could help cities actually do wetland treatment trains and help property owners to plant their shorelines with mangroves and oysters to protect against storm surge. And so in conclusion, as you set your 2020 agenda, please prioritize clean water and healthy habitats by including the Volusia Forever and Echo programs on the ballot in 2020. Thank you.
John? Sorry about that. Put the cards back over there. I knew that you were entitled to speak.
Okay, thank you. 3 things. One, I absolutely think you should put Echo and Volusia Forever. It was highly, and I did vote for it. I'm old enough to have voted. People want it. It is not complete. There are still things that needs to be done. There's no outcry to stop it. There's no outcry to reduce it. So keep it exactly like it is. Secondly, I was not prepared for the process vote being a vote. Process to me means you're going to do something. You're not voting on somebody. When Mr. Rechtenwald, I can't pronounce that correctly a lot of times, went up, he said, I'm not going to run for it, which is what it should be said. I'm not going to run for it. And I felt badly because he's going back on his word, which I don't like. So I would rather somebody that's going in not be running for office, because it puts you in an advantage when you go for something. It's like an elected official. If you're already in office, everybody knows you, everything is copacetic. To me, it hints of that. I don't know the man from a hole in the wall. He may be the finest person for the job, but it just creates a little bit of an idea. Lastly, with regard for the city of Daytona Beach, we are going through, and we've gone through, let me see, I've gone through like 8 cycles in which things start to develop, and then they take so long, it stops, and we have nothing for several years. Then it starts again, and one thing happens, and then it goes over and over. I'm asking of you that you have talked about rebuilding the county building on Beach Street. You have talked about rebuilding the courthouse on City Island. I'm asking you to do the 2 things now as soon as possible to help with the synergy that's going on. I know you've heard about the Burgoyne properties, the 2 large buildings going up, Consolidated Tomoka going up, and if the city was smart, which they're not, they would go with the project that they had on city property right behind McKay's. It came before us about 20 years ago. They were going to build the building there, some housing, apartments. Right now they're doing one of these numbers and twiddling their thumbs, and the opportunity may go away again. So I'm asking you, please help the city of Daytona Beach by focusing on those 2 items as soon as possible, because if you're building those, it gives more incentive for Burgoyne to do what they're doing, and Consolidated Tomoka to do what they're going to do, and Beach Street, and Brown and Brown, and the park. It creates a synergy, and when that thing sort of happens, you'd be surprised what else comes along. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ben, did you have a, Johnson, Mr. Johnson? Did you have a? I think we got all that. Okay. Okay. Rob Bird, thank you for staying. They had taken my cards away from me, so
that's okay.
Apologize.
Rob Bird, 26 Silk Oaks Drive in Ormond by the Sea. I would ask the council to schedule a discussion to place on the November ballot the renewal of 2 worthwhile voter-approved county programs, Volusia Forever and ECHO. I voted for both in 2000 with a hope that they would accomplish what they set out to do. 20 years later, I believe, all things considered, that they have, and very well at that. The accomplishments of Volusia Forever and ECHO gave me confidence year after year that the taxes I paid went for the intended purpose. And I personally saw the programs benefit all the time in the parks, community centers, preserved lands I visited, and many other things. I'm retired on a fixed income, but I feel Volusia Forever and ECHO were well worth the relatively small assessment I paid for them. I urge that the voters be given the option to continue the work of these programs to protect important land and water resources and enhance the quality of life in Volusia County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bird. John Hogue.
Hi, my address is 203 South Orchard Street. I live in Ormond Beach.
John Hogue. Yes,
I've spoken to some of you, including you, Ed, before. I just wanted to be very brief. I'm in favor of Volusia Forever. I'm a member of the Sierra Club. I've lived here about 6 years. I really like it here. I think the Volusia Forever program has been incredibly valuable. And the additional programs we've discussed, I mean, I'm kind of more concerned about Volusia Forever, but I've seen the programs real close to my home in Ormond Beach that are also helpful, that are also funded for 20 years. Now, I'd like to see it extended, and I'd like to talk very briefly about what I observed at a round table discussion with political leaders, including yourselves, and I heard them talking about, among other things, the infrastructure tax that did not pass. And people mentioned, at least some of the people mentioned, trust. They said, I think they didn't trust us. I think the voters didn't trust us. And I think trust is really, really important. Now, we've made it very clear that we're in favor of Volusia Forever. We've made it very clear why we're in favor of it. And all we're asking, it's very simple, just let us decide. Just let the voters decide. Just put it on the ballot. You can put other things on the ballot if you choose to. We want this on the ballot. It got over 60% of the vote 20 years ago. It's been very successful. So give us a reason to trust you. Thank you.
Betty, that would be it. You spared me. Thank you.
That's okay.
Just state your name again for that.
Yes, I will. Betty L. Laughlin, 751. In 1991, I found out about the Florida Native Plant Society. Our chapter formed in 1990. We named ourselves after a little plant that only grows in Volusia County, nowhere else in the world. We call it Volusia's pawpaw or Rugel's pawpaw. But we're so pleased to see that it's here. We have right now Dr. Norman from Stetson, who's worked on it for many years. We have the Missouri Botanical Gardens, Bach Tower Gardens, a project going on for 2 years to study this rare plant that is only ours. That's just one jewel that we have in Volusia County. Since 2012, Pawpaw Chapter has had citizen science groups get together to do surveys there. Our chapter has also gone out and recently rescued this beautiful plant. This is a pine lily growing along Highway 44 right next to commercial development. So with the kind help of Volusia County management, we got permits to rescue about 20 of these plants and put them on a safe place at Longleaf Pine Preserve. So we want to go on record saying Volusia County is very unique, and I, being here from Volusia, feel like it's my baby. I know of all it's the only county that has the St. Johns River on the west, the DeLand Ridge with the sand hills, the scrubs with the scrub jays, the bubbling springs with the manatees, and we've got that big jigsaw puzzle of pine flatwoods and the cypress domes that go all the way to the other ridge on the coast, and the world's famous beach, Canaveral National Seashore, where I volunteer to give plant walks. So we know that Florida's Volusia County is probably the jewel, the big jewel on the whole east coast of Florida. We are very proud of it. I'm proud of it, and I've worked with the chapter. We've held 2 Native Plant Society conferences here with over 20 field trips each year, 2006, 2016. Professors who wrote the books came. They were delighted to go on Volusia Forever lands purchased and voted on by myself and others like me in 2000. We see the value of it, especially when we're seeing so much development. Time is out. Please put Florida Forever on your, it goes along with Florida's mission statement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know you meant Volusia Forever, but that's okay. Paul Redmond.
Welcome. My name's Paul Redmond. I'm at 3 Neptune Park in Orland by the Sea. I'm a longtime resident of Volusia County and currently president of the local chapter of the Florida Native Plant Society, which, as Sonia mentioned, is called the Pawpaw Chapter after the Volusia Pawpaw. The Plant Society mission is to promote the preservation, conservation, and restoration of the native plants and native plant communities of Florida. I and other members of our chapter are here to support a 2020 ballot question to allow the citizens of Volusia County the opportunity to choose to continue the Volusia Forever and Volusia Echo programs. You got me started. Volusia Forever and Echo have resulted in the purchase of ecologically important habitats and the creation of numerous recreational activities, features that improve the quality of life of our existing residents, as well as being high on the list of what people and businesses look for when considering relocations. These benefits include the county's Master Trails program, which I have bicycled on some of the Springs to Springs Trail and seen the many people who regularly use these trails for their own style of outdoor recreation, whether it be bicycling, walking, jogging, or rollerblading. It would be a lost opportunity if the uncompleted sections of this and other trails could not be finished due to lack of funds. Spending time outdoors has been found to improve both mental and physical health, and the more opportunities people have for this, the better. The local chapter of the Florida Native Plant Society, named Pawpaw, is after the Rugel's false pawpaw, Derinothamnus rugelii. It's also known by the name Volusia pawpaw since it grows nowhere else in the world, except right here. This rare and endangered plant is found on a number of properties that have been purchased by Volusia Forever, Longleaf Pine Preserve and Deep Creek Preserve, to name two. The Pawpaw Chapter's monthly field trips, on which the public is invited, often visit various Volusia County conservation lands to explore the various habitats and the plants that they contain. The Rugel's pawpaw is not the only rare plant on the county's conservation lands. Many plants important to bees, butterflies, and other pollinators can be found on these properties, and this is an issue to a lot of people. Volusia County is to be commended for the vision to purchase and manage these lands, many of which are in the Volusia Conservation Corridor. Filling in the gaps in this corridor would be of great ecological benefit to provide even greater outdoor recreational activities for our residents and tourists. I could go on, but I leave you now with a request to put the option to continue Volusia Forever and Volusia Echo on the ballot this year, and to let the people decide if they also value what I consider a real good value investment. Thank you.
Perfect timing. Thank you, Paul. Marguerite, Angela, Marguerite, Angeline. If you live at 4390 Saxon Drive in New Smyrna Beach. Your phone number is. I'm not going to do that. I'm assuming you're not here. And John, there's yours. You're done. Corey Trusty. Corey. Trusty. T-R-U-S.
Afternoon. You know me. We saw each other at the Veterans Home.
Yes, we did, didn't we?
Yeah. Okay, my name is Corey Trusty. My address is 46 High Ridge Road. I'm in unincorporated Volusia County. My children are fifth generation Volusia County residents, and I am a business owner in Volusia County. I'm here to represent my family, and also as a graduate of the University of Washington in zoology, which is a study of animal sciences. I'm also here to speak on behalf of the animals who are threatened by urbanization in our county. According to scientists who published in the journal Science last October, the number of birds in the United States and Canada has declined by 3 billion over the last 50 years. That is nearly 30% of bird populations, and not just rare or endangered bird species, but also common birds. Birds particularly impacted are those which feed on insects. This is a downward trend which runs parallel to a downward global trend in insect populations. A few suggested causes for the insect decline include habitat destruction caused by urbanization, such as what is happening in Volusia County. Volusia Forever helps maintain native plant populations. According to Halifax River Audubon, these native plant populations are essential for healthy insect and bird populations. Common yard plants in Volusia County urban landscapes like croton and philodendron may be beautiful and easy to maintain, but they do not provide food to insects, and 80% of the suburban landscape is sterile with these types of non-native plants. These types of plants are not capable of supporting insect and bird populations because 90% of plant-eating insects eat only native plants with whom they co-evolved. 96% of land birds feed insects to their babies who need the protein to grow. A nest of chickadees requires 570 caterpillars per day, which is 9,000 caterpillars per nest. A native oak tree, in contrast to common non-native urban landscape plants, is capable of supporting 557 species of caterpillars. Urbanization in Volusia County and around the United States is driving a steep decline in insect and bird populations. Volusia Forever is one way to counterbalance that trend to conserve the natural beauty of our county. So please give us the opportunity to vote to extend the program.
Thank you. Another well-timed. I thank all of y'all that did say that. I do not have any cards for anyone else that was here this morning. If your card got misplaced and you filled the card and you feel that you were not given a time to speak, raise your hand, speak now. We'll close the public participation for the afternoon session. And since this is not your time, I learned a song in Tennessee called Picking Up Pawpaws, Putting Them in a Basket. And I don't know where that came from, but I think we had pawpaws in Tennessee. But Indiana has them, but I'll just leave that. Oh, these are the Volusia, that's why they're only in Volusia County, right? Just curious about that one. Maybe someone that hears me say this can enlighten me why there are pawpaw songs all over the country. Mr. Manager, do you want to do comments now?
Not at this time.
Okay. George. I'm not George. Dan. That was George. I'm getting hungry. Dan. No. Okay. And then we'll go to County Council, Ms. Post.
All right. First of all, Happy New Year. Who can believe it's 2020? It's the start of a new decade. That's just, I don't know where the last 40, 50 years went, but looking forward to 2020 and looking forward to a new decade and a new direction in Volusia County, or continuing the new direction in Volusia County. The main thing I wanted to bring up during open discussion was yesterday, I'm chair of the TDLCB committee, which is the Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board. And one of the questions that had come up before was bus service to Tanger Outlets area. And so not just to Tanger Outlets, but to all the shopping centers around there. In past meetings I had with Votran, Votran had advised that there was one option, and one option only, and that option was $900,000 to provide that route, and which included a new bus. In asking them to come, because I continued to get questions about service to that area, so I said, all right, I'm going to have Votran actually come and provide it to them, and it will be out there, and it will be official by Votran that this is our only viable option. But good news, Votran made a presentation, and Votran has advised that the bus service, a route to the Tanger Outlets area, is actually viable. And is everyone sitting down? So at zero cost. So I would move that we bring this back for discussion to council on a future agenda item.
It's going to be placed on an agenda item.
Yes, so that's what I wanted to make sure
It's scheduled to be placed. I did that yesterday.
Okay, so it's going to be on the next agenda?
I don't know whether it's the next one or the first one in February. George and I were working on that yesterday.
Yeah, we don't have it on there yet, so your request is still good at this time.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it looked like that was something that could be put into place almost immediately and at zero cost, so I was hoping to not.
It's something that we do need to discuss.
Okay,
we're
well,
very
let's do this
optimistic
then.
about it, and we'll put it on as as an item. It's something I had asked Votran to the folks that are over there to look at all their routes and look at what they're doing and look at how they're delivering things that I believe led them to a different conclusion. But with anything, you know, when you're saying no cost, it's because of movement of things with it. And so there are winners and losers, and I just want to make sure everyone understands that. So, yes, we'll put it on.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Does anyone object to putting it on an agenda item? Okay.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. And the next thing is, I would like us to maybe have some discussion, and I don't know if we'll have time during the workshop, but maybe we can put it on an agenda or something. But I'm having concerns over the county doing contracts with various entities, and then those contracts not being abided by. And then we end up in a position where the county is, hands out with really nothing that we can do to combat it or to say, hey, you're in violation of the contract, other than completely negating things. And so some examples would be the Veterans Bridge, the hotel on the beach, and then First Step Shelter. And First Step Shelter is really what's pushing my question of this, because I recently went to the First Step Shelter, and there are a number of things in there that are not that aren't consistent with my understanding of what would be put into place as part of our full agreement. And so I'd like maybe if we can have some discussion on that, because continuously just coming up and saying, you didn't do what we had asked, but we're in a holding pattern. Absolutely. So Dan, what exactly should my motion be? Because that was pretty. Can you sum it up in a nice?
Well, I think what you're asking is that you review whether that the council review whether or not the payments should be made in accordance with the
So not specifically reference to First Step, but I don't. I'm all about SOPs or standard operating procedures. So I don't know if there's an SOP that we can put into place, or just a general thing that we abide by for contracts. I don't know, but this is one thing after another that we've had at least in the last year, 2 years.
Well, we're monitoring with
okay.
the bridge. We're certainly monitoring and prepared
bonded,
to enforce the
so we're not in
contract.
trouble there.
And
But
the
now
bridge does have
we're
a
looking
fining
at getting
mechanism.
into a lawsuit over the bridge. These things are not being abided by. So
We have a bond. They have to abide by. It will be finished, and they will pay for it. So that one is covered.
So, question for you then, George. Are we not looking at possible litigation over the bridge?
Yeah, it's a little early, but yes, it's a distinct possibility. Right now, there's a fining mechanism. And the other thing to remember is that is 100% federally funded, and we have to play contractually by the rules that the Department of Transportation and the Federal Highway Administration, they oversee, and our contracts have to follow their rules. And but it has a liquidated damages provision that we are using right now.
It just seems that on our end we're consistently upholding our contractual obligations, and it's just been a number of things in the last.
Sure. If you would like to list some of those things that you would like to have brought back for us to be aware of on any action that we may need to take, I think that would be a way to go. And if staff knows, or if you know, things that need to be evaluated for us to look at, whether it's the bridge, whether it's First Step, I can't think of other contracts that are.
Well, I listed 3 examples, but what I would prefer is I'm just looking for consistency in our responses to ensure that I don't know, whether it needs to be in our initial negotiations or whatever it is, you know, it seems like,
Well, we approved the contracts, so it's up to us to be part of that.
Correct, but,
So whatever we need to do
and
to
I'm
get
hearing
that.
the message,
Okay.
that we will review them and continue to make sure that there is tougher language where we can legally to look at what the penalties or controlling factors may be, and we'll enforce them. So,
Okay. How about they bring back a list of any contracts where we've had lack of performance or lack of completion? They bring that back to us with a summary for us to evaluate and see maybe what went wrong in the wording or what things that can be prevented going forward. Would that help?
I think so, but then we can look at that and see what we need to do to help that in the future, because the decisions that county council makes needs to have some teeth.
Right.
We can't just be
Okay.
up here.
If you do that, I think that'll help all of us to see that and see that. I'm sure there's some that wish they could see what the original Sunrail contract was and bring it back, right? But anyway.
So the motion then would be,
It's just that they're going to bring it back. We don't need a motion. They'll just bring back that for us.
so then I will withdraw my motion.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. They'll do it. Okay.
And that's it, thank you.
Ms. Wheeler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a lot. I have one item. Recently, there was a letter that was sent to the Ag Department, and I was just, in regard to the parade.
You mean Attorney General?
The Attorney General, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry, yes,
AG
yes.
is,
Yes,
okay.
yes, I'm thinking Ag, because that's another whole thought on my mind, but,
I had that in my closing.
yeah, and I really, yes, well, then I don't know that you're going to say what I'm going to say,
You don't
so
know
I
what
better
I'm gonna
say it.
We received a response back from them.
Okay.
With additional information.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I was going to bring up now. And
Okay, I would just ask for withdrawal of the letter because it didn't come before us for approval before it was sent. And I have a great concern about things like that going out without the council's approval when it was stated in the motion that it should come back to council for approval.
okay. You have a motion that the letter that was to be sent, which
Yes.
is now in limbo,
Yeah.
be withdrawn.
Absolutely.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, let's go ahead and discuss this because the letter that was sent, I wasn't going to sign it, but they said they could use the auto pen or whatever. I too thought, and Mr. Johnson happened to be standing there when I guess the letter was there, and he said he would sign it, and I said, well, you can't sign it, and it was, I guess.
So you signed it?
So what happened?
He signed it,
But she,
if it was to come back.
I thought it was to come back as well, but
And the recorded motion
says,
that you requested that it come back.
right,
So you could have easily signed it thinking it was going to come back before it was actually
Right.
sent. Instead it was sent.
So that was the letter that was prepared to be sent and was gone ahead and sent, I guess, that afternoon. So where we are on this one is they've asked for 3 different forms, Dan, is that correct, or something, additional information. So we have a motion to rescind our request to the Attorney General's office for what was prepared.
Can we
Okay,
have
Ms.
some more
Post,
discussion?
Well,
More discussion, please.
Yeah.
on
Yeah,
this.
we're having discussion, we're not calling a vote on it.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, to clarify just a little bit further on that, the important thing is when we're making requests coming from the council, that we know exactly what the request is. What may come out of a department may not be the request that we're asking for. And that was my real concern with that, because I felt like that was not what I thought the motion was to send.
Well, it's just like the request we did today that we voted on was to send the letter or to approve, be part of the letter. It was before us. Exactly. And we agreed on it. So that's the way it should come. We shouldn't just say, send a letter for this or that. Right. Okay, Ms. Post.
So, the letter's already been sent, though, and they already received it?
They received it and will not act on it until we respond. So we are in a situation to where we could respond,
Right.
which is the same as rescinding in response, saying we do not want it to take action at this time.
But a note of interest is we also received recently the response in the opinion from FWC that apparently we couldn't get before.
I was also going to bring that up today.
Well,
You should have brought
again, it might not be the same thing I'm going to say, but
where we got permission for the incidental take approval. For the
one
beach
sec.
thing.
One sec.
And we didn't get that from legal?
So the opinion or the approval of the new permit from FWC, that opinion should negate. Do we still need to even worry about the one from the Attorney General's office if FWC?
Well, that's
because
what
that
we're
was the
talking about now.
Right. So this is the point I'm making. Thank you. That's the point that I'm trying to push out is if we have that receipt of that letter from FWC, do we even need anything from the Attorney General's office? And can't we just push forward? And then on a side note, because if we don't really need to follow up with the Attorney General's office, and then we just pursue the matter of working on stuff not going out that's not specifically approved.
Right.
We have, pardon
before
me,
we have it
just one
before
second.
the
One
state-
second,
well,
sir.
You had your point.
Well, I have my point, but I'm still making it.
This
Okay,
is one
so
that-
what I would ask, what I'm saying is part of that follow-up and where the confusion may lie, and here's a solution that I'm trying to offer, Mr. Chair, is we have our council follow-up list that our Community Information Division provides, and so perhaps if either when you're signing things and assuming it's going to go out, or if the legal division or any other division sends something out on our behalf, if that council follow-up sheet was checked to ensure exactly what the motion was and what the direction has been given, those directions should be documented on that council follow-up sheet and then noted. And so if we simply make it, again, referring back to an SOP, if we simply make it an SOP of if anything goes out in direction of council that we refer to the council follow-up sheet, I think that would be a good idea. So thank you very much for allowing me the time.
Okay, and I was going to bring up in my closing comments, which I'm last on the list, so I have a lot of things come before me, but one was that we did receive yesterday afternoon from the Fish and Wildlife the approval for the permit, and that's all I had asked before was to make that application. Saying that we would be denied was not acceptable to me. I said, let's try it and find out. We did, and we got it. And I think that would have eliminated a lot of the problems that we had now had we gone ahead and submitted that. So we got the information yesterday from U.S. Fish and Wildlife permit to do the beach reenactment. So it's there. The other thing that we also have in process is for the state in the legislature, which I understand will be put in a bill to be put in at the last with all the other ones that go over, and hopefully that will be signed as well. Right now, what we're trying to do is decide, do we want to rescind it, which we already have to respond back to them, and how to do that. Do we want to respond in the fact of saying, we do not want to take action on this at this time? And that would be the way it would be worded before it's sent back to the Attorney General's office. And Ms. Dennis, I'm going to let everybody comment, but Dan, do you want to go first?
Well, just if I may, the motion that was passed, as I understood it, asked a specific question that did not pertain to the event itself. It asked a broader question of authority. There's a certification form that was sent back to us, and the Attorney General wanted us to address some issues of law that they felt were not previously addressed. If it is the pleasure of the council not to to continue with the request, that's certainly within your prerogative. The bill that is before the legislature addresses the event itself. The question that was asked and could be withdrawn from the it asked a broader question. So that's where you are. If it's your pleasure to withdraw your request, it's certainly within your prerogative to do so.
Okay. Ms. Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's a couple things in play right now. First of all, we got a letter, I guess, from the Fish and Wildlife Commission.
You received the amended an amended permit yesterday afternoon. It was sent to you by Mr. Rodriguez.
We received it via email?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, I'm sorry, but I'm doing 10, 12-hour days, haven't had a chance to drill down.
I'm sorry you hadn't seen it, but
Had not seen it, and very genuinely would have appreciated an update from legal, at least a response and some review to council. Did you know? So, okay, we got there's silence on that. As far as the letter goes to the Attorney General's office, that again is disconcerting because there was clear direction from council that it be brought back to council before going out. I've got it played up. I've got it queued. It's at marker 14.30 at 2019-12-10. As recorded on the minutes. If you'd like, I'd be happy to play it into the audio and re-record it. I've listened to it multiple times. There's no question that what this council directed staff to do did not occur. And there's several things that concerns me about that, because we have said we're not going to vote on something that we don't see it in writing and it's not on the agenda and we talk about it. This was a last-minute thing that was presented to council and we gave direction to staff, to legal, to bring the letter back to council. But what happened between then and today was not just a letter drafted and sent to the Attorney General. It was done without council approval. Clearly done without council approval. And so I'm going to support withdrawing that letter from the Attorney General. I'm going to support withdrawing that for multiple reasons. And going forward in 2020, unless it's a time-sensitive issue, and sometimes that does happen. Maybe there's a critical issue that this council has to make a decision immediately on. But if it's not in writing and we haven't seen it, these end-run posturing has got to stop. It's going to stop. I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to vote for anything like this again. And this is probably going to be one of the reasons we're going to have the discussion on the legal department in the workshop after lunch. This is just setting the table for that. So I'm going to,
Okay.
that's on this issue. That I've got my other comments later, but that's.
Okay. Well, I guess how to stage this or couch this or put it out there. We can just respond in their request that there's no need, that we're withdrawing the request in that wording. And it would come back to us with that in the response that way. Is that acceptable to the council?
That would be acceptable, but could we see a copy of the letter before it went? Yeah.
Right. So then we would have to have that at the next meeting before it goes.
Response from us now, so
Right.
there's no action that they're going to take before the
Correct.
next meeting. So yes, I would be okay with that.
Okay. Is everyone okay with doing it that way as opposed to a letter, which they have? Okay. So that's what we're voting on to do. It will come back to us at the next meeting with the letter, which we will all sign and agree to send. Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, that motion passes, and we'll see it back in February. Okay.
You didn't have a second on that, did you?
Yes. It was made by Ms. Wheeler, second by Ms. Dennis.
Oh, okay. Just
Right?
making sure.
You got that? Okay. That's it for you? You're done? Ms. Denny's.
Okay, Mr. Chair, moving on. Last night, several of us were at an event at Tiger Bay, and I was speaking with our state's attorney, R.J. Larissa. Mr. Rechtenwald, he said to thank you for the great elevators at the Justice Center. He said it was much needed the whole evening. They're just thanking you for elevators. So
There's another one off my list.
yeah, so he's telling everybody. So he was telling everybody, including the chief judge. So there you go. Good job. As far as travel goes, I know we're going to talk about that in our workshop, but I'm just giving you, council, a heads up. My colleagues, I will be attending the Florida Space Day on Wednesday the 22nd in Tallahassee, and come back, and the following week we'll be in D.C. yet again representing Volusia for the FAA Commercial Aviation and Aerospace Conference. Attended a couple days ago a meeting, as did Councilwoman Gertman. I'm glad to see you get there. That was a really good meeting. We represented Volusia County in Melbourne at the request of the Office of the White House, a day about opportunity zones. What was so unique about that, there were 10 federal agencies in that room. It was a whole lot more than what was on that letter that we received. The Lieutenant Governor in the morning, she opened up. Governor DeSantis was there. Of course, Space Florida narrated it, moderated it. It was a really, really good informational meeting. I'm glad that I went, that Councilwoman Gertman was there. Found out there were some extra seats that morning, or the day before, excuse me. So we looked up the opportunity zones here in Volusia County, and I made sure, extended that invitation to get them through security, and was able to bring in Debbie Connors from the Port Orange South Daytona Chamber that does economic development in an opportunity zone for Port Orange, Jim Cameron for the Daytona Chamber and the City of Daytona, Samantha Bergeron for the City of Edgewater. They have an opportunity zone. Tried to get Patty Rippey from South Daytona because they have an opportunity zone, but at the calendar conflict, it was like a 24-hour notice, but was able to get more seats for Volusia there to represent us in our opportunity zones. But there's so much opportunity, and we're going to talk about affordable housing, and I think this kind of dovetails in with all of that and some great opportunities that can be had right here in Volusia County. I also had a meeting with my cities of Edgewater and New Smyrna Beach regarding their CRAs, and Mr. Rechtenwald, I know that will be coming up, and whenever you put that on the agenda coming up. But to that issue, I think we might need to take a look and get an update. I'm not sure when that happens from all of our CRAs, because I know there's some questions on a couple of them and some that aren't transparent right now, and there's too much money in play not to have some accountability here. So I would like, let's just use that for a broad blanket on all CRAs. We've already talked about TPO. I will be meeting with Senator Tom Wright tomorrow. We have a conference call scheduled with Congressman Waltz and somebody else to try to help put a seal on strengthening our position with SpaceCom and our connection with Brevard County. This is a very real thing. We're continuing to push this and try to secure that through the background. And I agree with Councilwoman Post on some of these issues, but and I know the concern, but the problem is each contract stands on its own. It's a separate contract with separate contract provisions. I, for one, have been frustrated with Park Avenue down in Edgewater. And I've called Mr. Casbear. I'm like, okay, when do we put the penalties in? When does that in upcoming biddings? And I think that's the way we answer it going forward, because we can't fix a contract that's already out there. We can all say Sunrail, but the future contracts, and I think staff is working on that, actually to look at how do we do that to make sure, just because a vendor comes in and they're the lowest on the price or they get chosen, well, yeah, but we worked with you on XYZ project, and you were whatever late or over budget, whatever those terms are. I really want us to go forward with that, Mr. Manager. We need to take a look at in today's economy and the costs escalating, and the time being what it is, because we know it's clear we have vendors walking away from projects to move and shift things to other bigger projects or ones that might pay a little bit more. That's another chess game that we're moving the parts around on.
Absolutely, and we are looking at alternate ways of procuring some of our construction or capital projects in particular is where a lot of that occurs.
Right.
So we'll be talking and bringing that forward. So and I will say though that we do put a little perspective on it. Yeah, I definitely think there's more of it right now because of exactly what you just said. In a market like this, we are in competition with other communities and other projects that are out there, which means good things for our economy, but it definitely means that for us, just going with low bid puts you at a risk that they're going to make other decisions that we'll work at. Overall, though, context, I would say, though, we do a tremendous amount of work out there that goes pretty smoothly. So, but yes, I think there's definitely more right now in the hopper that has gotten a little bit with some challenges. And of course, something like that bridge is so high profile as it is. So I will say those high-rise bridges as a whole, just from years of experience in that area, they're always a big challenge because of so many unknowns when you put pilings in the ground and do certain things. So there often is conflict on those projects, which is why we're very blessed to have the staff that we have, and we brought in experts as well to help us. So those projects are difficult at best. Good news, like you said, we are bonded. It will get done, and we will work, and we'll go through at the end what we need to do to straighten everything up. So,
thank you. And my very last comment is on the First Step shelter. I think we've had our other two agencies give us updates and reports. We have yet to have First Step come before this council. We're only in for $4.5 million. I think it's time that they present before this county council with an update of where they are and can explain why, when we agreed to 100 beds in a come-as-you-are shelter, that they're down to 40 beds and need a recommendation. And looking at contract provisions, I think we owe it to our citizens to get an update and an accountability and a presentation on First Step. I think they need to present to this county council.
Got it.
I think that's all I have.
Okay. Ms. Gertman.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Happy New Year to everyone. I wanted to share my acceptance of an invitation from Congressman Waltz to be on his Transportation and Infrastructure Advisory Committee. So I'm excited about that. I hope he knows my passion for West Side infrastructure and transportation. It does say local highway, rail, and other projects, so I hope he knows what he's gotten himself into. I also was excited to see and have been very impressed with the White House staff and how they've been able to represent and present on a number of cases, whether it was when we went to DC or when they come here locally, and talk about the resources that they can help provide and pull through some of the opportunities on the local level. And I think opportunity zones is certainly one of those areas. And I hope our staff will take this opportunity, because it is about redevelopment of distressed areas and targeting areas of need. And that's certainly another area of significant concern. There was discussion about opportunity zones, hub zones, and the resources that can be partnered in collaboration with corporate developers and nonprofits. So, and I was impressed that they talked about, get out of the box. Let's talk about ways of not just doing traditional type of investment and development, but really consider all the angles and options. And I just find that refreshing. So wanted to share that. Also, I was really pleased, as Councilwoman Denny said, Governor DeSantis was there, and I was pleased to see that he's initiated the statewide complete count committee for census, because we were concerned. And when I met with our delegation, I certainly shared with them our concern that there wasn't an effort at the state level.
Another one bites the dust.
Oh.
Sorry.
That's the joy of being chair.
Yeah.
Lastly, I want to share with everyone that on the weekend of the 18th through the 20th is the Martin Luther King weekend. There are various events throughout our community. On Monday, for DeLand, 9 a.m. at Stetson is the annual breakfast. And then the march through downtown DeLand to Earl Brown Park. And then there's a business expo and community festival there in the park. So we welcome everyone to come out and participate. So I thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
Ms. Denny's points were well put in reference to these contracts that we have out there. And contracts are so complicated for the general individual to read. It's hard for us to keep up and say, what has taken place and what hasn't. And it might help us if at the end of the contract that we it's bullet pointed for us. Bullet point down, here's what has to take place, progress boxes behind it, that people can take and hand it to us and say, here's where we are. It's simplified. When it's done, it's in the file. We can look at it and see who performed, who didn't perform, and make it so that anybody in the audience can look at it and know what's happening with it. And otherwise, it's just too complicated. And it has to be complicated to start with, but to simplify it for us and for the people so we can keep track and know that everything is on track and these people are performing like they're supposed to perform.
Dr. Lowry.
I'm good.
Okay. And I'll just touch on what, it's just me. I've got maybe, I can either repeat 3 things or 4 things, and which I'm not going to. I am going to repeat one. I sent a letter to Governor DeSantis' office, I believe in October, on the census, because we felt the importance of it. John Booker and I mentioned it. They felt like that the legislature wasn't appropriating money. We told them how much California and all the other areas were sending. Maybe some of that information got to them, because this complete count is very important. Oh, it's only when they find out that we may get 3 additional congressmen. It all of a sudden becomes important. Ms. Gertman and Ms. Wheeler, thank you both for taking the time that y'all are doing. And it shows what we're doing. We're splitting it up to make sure that every area is covered on the complete count. One person would have been taxed with a monumental job of doing it all. But we were thankful y'all were willing to accept that, to get that count, because it can be very important for all of us. A note on animals real quickly. Australia just lost almost 1 billion animals in their fires. I'm sure everyone's aware of that, of what they've gone. Horrible seeing that. They're talking about the animals that we lose them. A positive note on water. Volusia County rainfall for the year of 2019, 7 inches above rainfall of average, 7 inches. So we're not going to run out of water. Water cycles. It goes like this. If you draw a line on a 5-year program, we're going to get the 53.34 inches. It's been that way for hundreds of years, or since they've been measuring it. It's just so when we get a drought in 2 years, and don't say we're running out of water, but this year we're 7 inches above on the rainfall. The others I'm going to forget about that I'd already talked about, but, one thing. I think one thing that might be important, each of us, when we go through our individual conferences, when there's contracts there, I don't know if you have a chance, I mean, things are huge on what we get. Maybe that's a time, at least between there and the meeting, if we see things that none of us can probably catch all of them, but collectively, if we can collect things that we need to bring up to discuss before we commit to signing them, might be a way. Ms. Post, I didn't mean to, and I guess I was just frustrated again that another one of my items to share it with the people was taken off my list, so I apologize for that. But with that, we will recess
Mr.
at
Chair,
12.
Mr. Chair,
Nope.
one
No, I
quick
guess I'm
thing.
not.
Just real
Okay,
quick.
sorry.
On the travel, you just mentioned, I just want to make sure, and for our benefit, like in this case, Miss Denny said, she's going to Washington. I didn't hear any objection, so I'm going to take that as an approval when we're doing this, okay? To make sure we don't have any problem down
I think
the road.
that's one thing
Because of the
that-
policy, it actually says approve, and if I...
Well, I think the one thing that was left out of probably the wording was that the awareness of the travel is important, and I think
I
we'll
think that
discuss
was the intent, right.
this afternoon. The intent was
Yeah.
that we're aware of wherever everyone's going, which means I better tell you, but I could do it the next meeting. I've been asked to attend by Seminole County their State of the County meeting, luncheon, which I thought, I'll go. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I'll drive over and do that, but it's the first time I've received an invitation from another county, and I think a lot of that has to do with us being the new local is regional, that they're reaching out, Seminole County reaching out to us to do that. So I felt that was nice. We've got to build those communication things and fill those gaps so we can get not only Sunrail, but everything else that we do. We're involved in 11, 12, 13 counties with some of the regional things that we're involved with. Those are important to maintain that and to move those forward. And with that, we will recess now at 12:48.
Mr. Chair?
There I
Mr.
go
Chair?
again. Sorry.
Will you allow me to add something then about travel? So I was going to wait till the next meeting, but I would like to mention a travel date for the very last week of the month then.
Oh, sure.
So I'm planning on attending at the very end of the month is the FAC Legislative Day in Tallahassee. And as usual, when I attend any kind of training or conference out of county, I wrap in a number of other meetings and things. And so as part of FAC Legislative Day, I'll also be doing some things involved with Children's Week and a lot of their different associations, also the VA and some issues with seniors. But that will just be an overnight trip.
Okay. No objection to that. I mean, that's perfect. Anytime that you can add more. Ms. Gertman, did you?
So if we're gonna use this as the opportunity to notify about our upcoming travel, 23rd, 24th, the state of Black Florida, the delegation in Tallahassee talks about everything on the table with the delegation there in Tallahassee. So 23rd, 24th, and on the 30th, 31st is a workshop at FAC. So I had scheduled both of those dates to attend.
Okay. You're not going to stay for the whole time, that whole week, though, yes?
No. It's the 23rd, 24th, and the 30th, 31st.
Okay.
Yeah.
No objection. And then if we could all just, I mean, it could be very simple, and then just each of us report back whatever was learned at that. It just keeps us all, because all of us can't go to all things. I'm glad, and I had planned to try to go to Volusia Days next week, but that's just, is anyone going? It's just too much.
Too much going on. There's too much going on those same days.
There's just too much going on, and I think we did a great job of presenting our priorities to our delegation. We all have developed relationships with our delegation, so we see them. I talked to Tom Wright last night, Senator Wright, sorry, about that, and he said he just got, Monday's the opening session. Tuesday they are entertained by almost nothing, and then starting maybe Tuesday, he had 5 pages of people wanting to see him on one day or 2 days. He said it's impossible.
Yeah.
So some of us that have gone up there and been frustrated, we do a good job here of developing those, so yes. And now at 12:51, we will recess for lunch, and we will reconvene after that for the workshop this afternoon. For those of you who would like to attend, you can welcome to attend. It will be when we finish lunch, and I'm guessing that's going to be around 1:30-ish. You're welcome. It'll be downstairs in the training room on the first floor. There will be no comments or participation by the public, but the public is invited, and it is on audio as well. With that, we will do that.
Mr. Kelly, you forgot about the committee things.
Oh, geez. How am I going to do it?
Turn the light.
Excuse me. Time out. We're going to reconvene the council meeting real quickly. Did Ben? We're reconvening the meeting. You can vote from there if you like. The one thing that we're supposed to do was the assignments. I had it placed on your desk this morning. I want to keep those the same. If anyone would like to come off of one or change one, we can make that adjustment at the next meeting. Otherwise, I would like to have the appointments as they are right now.
Mr. Chair?
Yes?
One change on the Indian River Lagoon Council. Going to rotate and put Billy Wheeler in as the main and move me to the alternate.
Okay.
So let's keep the same appointments, but we're going to rotate. She will be the main point, and I will be the alternate.
Okay. Does anyone else? And
Yes.
Ms. Post.
And Mr. Chair, I saw that you have switched to the DJJ committee, and I'm not necessarily needing to be appointed to that committee, but I do attend those meetings.
Which
so the Department of Juvenile Justice Committee. So if you're
I go to the quarterly District 7 ones.
okay, well, okay, so do I. All right.
Okay.
All right.
You must go to the local ones. Yes. Okay, I go to the 4 that are the quarterly ones. Okay. Okay. All right. Any objection to that motion of the appointment of the committee assignments? Hear no objection. Motion or the appointment passes. It doesn't need to be a motion. Okay, now then at 12:53 we'll recess. Thank you.